turf that uses 40% less water than a typical lawn. SLC Turf Trade has a mix of Kentucky bluegrass, and customers are loving how green it looks. Salt Lake City's conservation manager tells the Salt Lake Tribune they bought triple what they did last year and still sold out in 24 hours. Your money at this moment, we're off to a tough start today. The Dow is down 483 points. Matter of fact, they're saying that Microsoft is the lone Dow component that's on the rise early this morning. The S&P is down about 59. The NASDAQ off more than 200 points this hour. Coming up, still cloudy downtown, but it will be warm later. We'll check that full forecast coming up next. KSL News Time, 9:02.
What do you need to hear in the morning to feel ready for the day?
Important news that happened overnight, the traffic you'll hit on the roads.
You'll be ready for your day with us.
Join Utah's Morning News 5 to 9 on KSL News Radio.
Tim Jr. here from RGS Exteriors to tell you about our 10-year everything guarantee. Most contractors spout off having great warranties that last forever. But those warranties are always, and I do mean always, riddled with loopholes, exception, fine print, and nonsense. At RGS Exteriors, we cover everything. Parts, labor, material, everything and anything for 10 full years. There's no cost to you whatsoever. No hoops to jump through, no exceptions. Yes, the products we sell, like James Hardie siding, our windows, gutter covers, come with a 25 to 50-year manufacturer's warranty, just like everybody else. But the truth is, the products almost never fail. It's always the labor and material which is never covered, so you're stuck paying for service calls. For peace of mind, call RGS Exteriors. You'll sleep easy for 10 full years. 801-280-3110 or visit us at rgsutah.com. That's 801-280-3110 or online rgsutah.com. Gutters, siding, windows, and all exteriors with the 10-year everything guarantee.
Wesley is a truck driver.
I drive a truck, and I love what I do.
A truck driver with IRS troubles.
They told me I owed them $43,000.
It got really bad.
Quite a few letters in the mail. They were talking about wage garnishment coming after my house, my car. Yeah, they don't play around. I seriously thought that I was going to lose everything.
One sleepless night, Wesley finally made a call to Optima Tax Relief at 2 a.m.
Kind of figured I'd get a machine, but I didn't. I actually got to talk to an actual person in the middle of the night.
He found just what he was looking for.
Oh, they were great people. You need a team of people that know what they're doing. Optima Tax, they know what they're doing.
Optima Tax Relief came through with flying colors.
I saved an incredible amount of money. Happy don't even come close. I was absolutely overjoyed.
Take Wesley's advice.
If you're in any kind of trouble with the IRS, call Optima Tax Relief. Don't trust anybody else.
Call Optima for a free consultation. Call 800-343-6460. 800-343-6460. 800-343-6460.
Optima Tax Relief.
Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
Hey everybody, it's Julie, coming to you from Logan, Utah's heart of the arts. We've got not one, not two, but 3 historic theaters in one block downtown. They're all bursting with live performances. Trust me, you do not want to miss out. Utah Festival Opera and Musical Theater has 300 professional artists and staff from all over the country performing their hearts out with music by a full live orchestra. You might not realize that having a full live orchestra is a big deal, but it is totally a big deal. They're doing Aida the Opera and Aida the Broadway version, the opera Lohengrin, which has only been performed 5 times in the entire United States, plus Oliver and Our Town, too. They don't call it Utah Festival for nothing. In addition to shows, there's Breakfast with the Stars, late-night cabarets, concerts, workshops, and silent movies with organ accompaniment. Oh my! Wait, just when you think it can't get better, this year only, Utah students in public and private schools get a free ticket to any or all shows they want. What? I know. Don't miss out. UtahFestival.org. UtahFestival.org.
Hey, this is Chris with JCW's. Not feeling a burger? We've got you covered. Try one of our hot ribeye, turkey, or BLT sandwiches, and you'll understand why we say JCW's, quality, and a lot of it.
Traffic and weather together is brought to you by Granite Credit Union's high-yield savings certificates. Andy Farnsworth's in the traffic center.
Tim, we still have that closure southbound ramp onto Bangerter Highway from the airport. So you can leave the airport, but you'll be forced to go east towards Salt Lake City, either on I-80 or North Temple. No access to Bangerter or westbound I-80 at the moment as crews clean up a crash that blasted through the median barrier between the split there. I-15 itself looks good. We back to the speed limit from Ogden to Salt Lake, northbound from Provo to downtown. Mostly clear, just a little stretch of heavy traffic northbound 15 near the Pleasant Grove exit. Is the IRS harassing you? Are tax problems ruining your life? Let Utah Tax Attorney Jordan Wilcox help. Visit taxhelput.com. That's taxhelput.com. I'm Andy Farnsworth in the KSL Traffic Center.
Well, it says here we're looking forward to highs in the 90s. I don't know how many of us are actually looking forward to that. We'll be near or at 100 degrees for 3 of the next 7 days. 98 degrees coming on Sunday, and right now in Salt Lake City it's 74. At KSL News Radio, 102.7 FM, 1160 AM, and KSLNewsRadio.com, your all-day companion for news.
Dave and Dujanovic, your morning companions for talk, analysis, and key perspectives on Utah's biggest stories on KSL News Radio.
Good morning. Except this morning you're not with Dave and Dujanovic because they're off hopefully living their best lives this week, having a good time out in what's going to be fabulous weather today. You've got me, Leah Murray, alongside my very good friend Derek Brown.
Living our best life right here
That's right.
in the studio.
This is our best life. We'll be taking you through the morning, and we're so glad you're with us. So now, Derek, yesterday we had a conversation about what's happening over in Alpine School District because last week Alpine school boards voted unanimously to close elementary schools Sharon and Valley View effective this fall. So I think people have feelings about it.
I think if it is your kid's school, school, absolutely you're going to have feelings. And what's interesting is there is looks like a lawsuit that's going on specifically about this. And let's talk a little bit about why that's the case and what is the basis for a lawsuit. Because when you hear that, the first thing you think is, well, can a school district choose to close a school if it makes sense?
Right.
And in this case, it was a unanimous decision by the school board, right?
So the answer is yes, they can. But Derek, isn't like the details in the rub of how they let people know, right? Because doesn't state law say if you're a parent and you just found out yesterday that the school you thought you were sending your kinder child to in August, which is next month, right? Like that's maybe not enough time. Is that where I
think so. For most of the districts here in Utah start late August. So you're right. It is, for all intents and purposes, next month. I'm kind of panicking as you say that. Because I just realized that it feels like summer just started, and you're basically saying it's almost over.
It's almost over. That's right. So we have got with us this morning Alicia Alba, who is a parent of a student at Alpine School District, and I think can help us shed some light on what's going on. Welcome to the show, Alicia.
Hi, thank you.
So can you tell us about, and correct anything that we said if we said something wrong, but what is your lawsuit about? Like what did the Alpine School District do wrong?
Yeah, great question. So it's the process that is the issue that we're having with the school district. As you said, there's legislation on the books saying how school districts need to go through the process for school closures. They need to first notify parents, provide an opportunity for public input, and then they can approve and start implementing those closures. And Alpine School District basically did it backwards. They started by approving the closures, then they notified everybody and gave us a chance for public input. So it's really just the cart before the horse.
And help us understand, why is it that they're closing the schools? I mean, is it that the schools, the buildings themselves are getting old? Is it a lack of, obviously demographics change in areas, and so I mean, like in the Salt Lake City School District, we see this all the time where they're closing school districts because you're having less and less kids in the Salt Lake City area. Now, I don't get the impression that's the issue in the Alpine area, right, or the Alpine District. But help us understand, why would they vote to close the schools at all?
Yeah, so it's a combination of factors. There are some changing demographics. As you said, demographics fluctuate; they go up and down. And then combine that with, the different schools. Some of them are a little bit older, maybe need some more maintenance. And so that's why those ones were targeted. And, there's financial reasons. There's a whole bunch of different reasons why a school district might choose to close a school. However, it matters that they do it in the right way if they're going to do it at all.
All right, Alicia, so talk to us about your immediate next steps. So is it the case that is the school district working with you at all? What are your plans moving forward with the lawsuit? What's happening?
Yeah, so there's actually 5 schools that were put on the chopping block in February. They were named. And so of those 5 schools, as you said, Valley View and Sharon were already voted to close. And those communities, they kind of saw it coming for a while. However, it's still, I just spoke to a woman at Valley View yesterday, and she said, the process still matters. It matters that they voted the day before this new school year starts on July 1st. That's when the fiscal year starts. It matters that they didn't give them any heads up. They didn't give them any time to process, any time for closure, anything like that. However, the lawsuit couldn't fix that because the school district had already drained them of all of their resources. They'd already moved all of the teachers to no location. They'd already made plans. Like they closed the schools effectively. And so our lawsuit, best we could have done would be to reopen those schools, but it would have only been probably for another year. So they were kind of in a situation where they were going to be harmed either way, and the lawsuit couldn't fix that at that point because they've been allowed to proceed so far. And then the other three schools are Lehigh, Linden, and Windsor elementary schools. And we're still in this weird state of limbo. We thought we would have answers on June 30th. We thought that they were going to clarify what their intentions are for our schools, but they didn't. They didn't bring them up at all. I've heard rumors that they're going to try to bring them up at their next board meeting on July 11th. But, again, those are just more rumors. We don't really know where we stand. They've kind of gone beyond the process now. So there is, yes, we've been notified, but now we haven't really been notified of anything. There's no pending dates, pending decisions, anything like that we can really respond to. So there's no there.
So, Alicia, are these school closures because they're renovating or they're building new schools? I mean, what is the reason for this? And, in my area, we had Butler Middle School. They actually closed. Well, they actually were building a new school on the same property, just in basically in the field in the back. And so there was a super smooth transition. They pretty much closed the school one day and then opened up the new school the next. And so I'm wondering, are these new builds, or is this going to be the kind of thing where they close it down, they raise the building, and then they just sell the land? I mean, what are we looking at?
Yeah, we wish that was the case. It feels like this was a panicked decision by the school board. They thought that their bond was going to pass. They thought that they were going to have money to build schools out west. And it kind of feels a little bit like a money grab, like where they're trying to get some resources from the east side of the district in order to make new builds out in the west side of the district. But as far as the students in these elementary schools that are being closed, they're being pushed into nearby elementary schools that are not built for the capacity that they're trying to put into them now. So, I mean, there's talk of having classrooms, some of them meet on a stage and have that be their classroom for the year. There's just a lot of concern with how they've done it. And if they had taken longer and gone through the process, we believe that they would have been able to come up with better solutions than what they came up with. It would be great, like Linden, for example. They have a property in West Linden that they could build a new school on, but because they're kind of panicking, they haven't built that new school. And so if Linden closes, there's nowhere for those students to go other than to a nearby elementary school. And so it kind of spirals, and it's not well prepared. The schools in the east were not built to hold 1,000 kids, 1,200 kids like some of the schools in the west side of our district are. Yeah. And so they're really trying to overcrowd them by trying to have this equality. It's not equity, it's equality of every school having the same amount of kids in it, or, reasonably same amount of kids.
Thank you, Alicia. We do so appreciate your passion about this. Alicia Alba, thank you so much for being on our show this morning.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that just gets me is, one, it's about maybe the process would have yielded better results, but also all these parents have this anxiety because school starts next month, right? And so if I don't know what's happening, my tummy just hurts, right?
There's a few things more that touch a nerve, more so than children and your schools.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so Derek, coming back after the break, we're going to have a conversation about Congressional District 2. Stay with us.
Dave and Dujanovic.
Did you know Utah has just one all-new station in the morning?
It's this one. Weekday mornings between 5 and 9.
Start your days with us. We're Tim Hughes and Amanda Dixon.
Your morning companions for news.
The first half of 2023 was nonstop.
The rain and snow keeps falling.
Crews are working on Immigration Creek.
Lori Vallow Daybell.
Guilty on all 6 charges.
Congressman Chris Stewart to step down.
Join us for what comes next. Get breaking news from Tim and Amanda mornings 5 to 9. Go deeper with David Dujanovic at 9 and Boyd Matheson at 1. And drive home with Jeff Kaplan from 3 to 7. The news won't slow, and neither will we at KSL News Radio.
Hi, Doug Wright, and let's talk about your barbecue. And let's talk about your barbecue skills. Maybe that old barbecue of yours was buried under the snow and you're just now in the process of getting it functional again. Now, we know you grill a pretty mean steak, but how about if we just all relax? It's July. We've been doing a lot of celebrating lately. It's time to get into Ruth's Chris Steakhouse. Why not let them grill the perfect steak for you and for your family? Ruth's Chris Steakhouse, they have 2 locations, Hotel Park City and, of course, downtown Salt Lake City. A lot of people like to kind of mesh things together. They're going to a ball game, going to a movie, or they're going to go up hiking in Summit County in the Park City area. Well, they make the reservation for that evening at Ruth's Chris Steakhouse, and you're going to have the best steak you have ever had, and the desserts, the side dishes, the other entrees too. It's Hotel Park City and 275 Southwest Temple in downtown Salt Lake City.
Hi, this is Dan, the laptop man from PC Laptops. Are you suffering from excruciating headaches, anxiety, and insomnia? You may be suffering from CMS, crappy monitor syndrome. That old computer screen from years ago could be the problem, exposing you to massive amounts of radiation frying your brain. At PC Laptops, we only carry screens that we've tested on our own eyeballs. Right now, purchase any PC Laptops desktop with an external monitor and get a free size upgrade. That's right. For example, if you buy a 22-inch monitor, you get an upgrade to 24 inches for no extra charge. Buy a 24, get an upgrade to a 27-inch monitor for free. We have brand new PC Laptops desktop computers starting from $11.99 or $29 a month, backed by a lifetime warranty. And to make it extra sweet, we're doing 0 interest for a year on a proof credit. So run into any one of our PC Laptops locations right now or check us out at PCLaptops.com. That's PCLaptops.com. Because at PC Laptops, we love you.
You can host the best backyard barbecue. You find a professional on Angie to make your backyard the best around. Connect with skilled professionals to get all your home projects done well. Inside to outside, repairs to renovations. Get started on the Angie app or visit Angie.com today. You can do this when you Angie that.
You could throw your flip-flop at a bug.
Ew, a bug, get it.
But the chances of actually hitting it
Over there.
are statistically
It's still alive.
unlikely. Good thing nature's got your back. Stem bug killers combine powerful active ingredients found in plants, like lemongrass and geraniol, and scientifically engineer them into effective bug-fighting formulas, safe for use as directed around people, pets, and throughout the home. Stem, rooted in nature, optimized by science.
Home is where the heart is. It's also where the office is, the school is, the restaurant is, the stadium is. Basically, your home is now the center for everything. So right now might just be the perfect time to upgrade your living space to one that has, well, a little more space. If you've been thinking about building, with home prices leveling out and material costs coming down, right now may be the perfect time to start building your dream home. Let the construction loan experts at Golden West Credit Union help make building your dream home a reality with a convenient low-rate construction loan. We also offer one-time close options so you can secure your construction loan and mortgage conveniently at the same time. Get a personalized rate quote right from the comfort of your own home or with a lending expert at any Golden West branch, or apply in minutes online today at gwcu.org. Golden West Credit Union, Equal Housing Lender, NMLS number 440574.
We'll take care of you.
With the 3 things you need to know this hour, I'm Tim Hughes. First, researchers are trying to figure out whether U.S. Magnesium's refinery or the Great Salt Lake itself is causing our bad air quality. Second, a former USU football player could be facing additional jail time for violating a protective order against the woman he's convicted of sexually assaulting. And third, it's the final day of the Salt Lake City Summer League, and the Jazz are looking to grab a win. We're going to look for a high today of 93 degrees, and right now in Salt Lake City, it's 74. As we get you back to the David Dujanovic Show on KSL News Radio.
David Dujanovic.
All right, welcome back to KSL Radio. I'm your host today, Derek Brown, with my good friend Leah Murray, filling in for David Dujanovic. And first of all, we have some breaking news. We're going to go to KSL News Radio Adam Small to talk about that.
Yeah, guys, we're just learning from CNN Politics that Walt Nauta, a aide to former President Donald Trump, has pleaded not guilty to several obstruction and concealment-related charges in court. This is in regards to those classified documents found at the former president's Mar-a-Lago resort. He's accused of helping him hide those from the federal government. Again, Walt Nauta has pleaded not guilty to those charges, and this could potentially mean these two cases are even getting closer together to being tried in one case, again, according to CNN Politics.
All right, Adam, thank you so much for keeping us informed and let us know if there's evolving, details on this. Walt Nauta, of course he pled not guilty.
I
was like, yeah.
Yeah, this is one of those, it's like the train you see coming from 3 miles away.
Yeah.
Right.
But talk to me a little bit, Derek, about, because you're a lawyer and your other hustle that you do for your living. But that
side hustle.
That side hustle that you have being a lawyer. So Adam just said that the expectation maybe is that the cases get drawn together. What are we talking about there? Does that mean that maybe the two men are sitting together in court on trial, or it just means moving forward the case is a little bit faster?
Well, sometimes they go together if you have a similar set of facts, and a judge can take two cases that are totally separate and then consolidate them into one case. So we may see that here because we've got these really interesting set of facts dealing with classified documents. And Leah, you and I have talked about this on the night show quite a bit because it just seems like apparently after the fact, anyone who served anywhere near the White House apparently happens to, President Biden has classified documents in his garage.
That's right.
And no one really thinks that he was deliberately trying to, pull a fast one. I think this is just a function of probably how these were treated, in the White House. Although the reality is, and we've talked about this, but I worked as general counsel for a United States senator. And when I was in D.C. and working on those issues, there was no inadvertent handling of classified documents. You know what I'm saying? If there were ever classified documents that we worked with or had anything to do with, you didn't inadvertently take them out of the room. In fact, you would go to what they called the skiff, which is like a plexiglass room where you couldn't even take your cell phones in. You'd go in the room, they'd hand out the documents, you'd look at them, and then you'd leave. So there was no one accidentally walking out with classified documents.
Right, and I think the answer is former Vice President Mike Pence, current President Biden, both after, I think, former President Trump found some documents, I think they went, their staff went looking, right? And both of them were like, oh no, we found some documents too. I think the rub here for the former president and this aide Nauta is everyone thinks they actually hid them, right? So it's one thing, I think, to have accidentally had documents in your possession. It's another thing to have your aide move them when someone's coming, right? So I think a little bit why Nauta's also being charged.
The motive is really the issue.
Correct.
Then.
That's the intent, right?
And the problem is Trump, when he was first approached about this, I think he was fairly belligerent and said, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to turn things over, only to discover that actually under federal law, you have to.
Right. And then I think his lawyers said, well, we did. Right. So a couple of the lawyers also had to step down from defending him. So a little bit the rub here for Nauta is I think he is being charged in obstruction and concealment related charges as being part of hiding the documents. Right. So there's the rub. Really what happens, Derek, if you ever find classified documents in your home as a result of your time in the Senate.
I'm going to go look just in case.
Yeah, you should check. And then you should just start with the garage. And then you should say, here they are. Right. Come and get them. Because I feel like that to me has been the difference between what's happening with former President Trump and with current President Biden and former President
And that's
Vice
what Biden
President Pence.
did right, is when they found them. I'm sure that his aides who found them just were absolutely dejected when they opened this, this file and saw classified marking. Went, oh no!
Right.
But they then voluntarily turned them over.
And Mike Pence's people too.
Exactly.
Right? As soon as they found it, they went, ugh.
Exactly.
Then,
but that's the way to approach that. So
okay, all right. So Derek, can I just pick your brain a little bit about what's something happening politically more close to home, which is Congressional District 2. So by 5 p.m. yesterday, all parties and candidates I guess we don't know.
It was the deadline. Yesterday was the deadline
for
signatures and for the party to indicate who their candidate is.
All right, so the Democrats entered Kathleen Rebe, United Utah Party entered January Walker, and then the Republican Party, and the way that I saw it reported, pretty much late in the day, enters Celeste Malloy as their nominee.
Who, by the way, will be on the show with us
later today
at 11:35.
Later this morning,
yes,
so we can ask
she can
her
talk about
it.
that.
Okay, so all of those three are what we call convention candidates, right? So they came out of their conventions, their parties have reported them, and so they are officially on the, well...
Yes, if this were 10 years ago, we would know exactly who is on the primary ballot.
Right now.
But there's a twitch.
All right,
or
so
a
talk
glitch.
to us about the twitch.
Well, that was a little bit of I don't know if that was a Freudian or what that was.
But
A
I like
twitch,
it.
a glitch.
So I was going to elevate it right there.
We now have there's a signature gathering approach here in Utah where if you collect a certain number of signatures, you can effectively circumvent the party process and get on the ballot. In Utah, for a congressional district, it's 7,000 signatures. And what's interesting is you can't just submit 7,000 signatures to the lieutenant governor's office and say, all right, I'm good. Because the lieutenant governor's office needs to go through and validate that each one of those signatures are registered voters and that they live in the district. In this case, that area of the state consisting of Davis County, Washington
all the way
County,
down.
that sort of thing. And if you submit 7,000, I mean, invariably, they get thrown out because a lot of people don't do that.
And I guess something I learned yesterday that I didn't realize was true, I guess I thought that you could sign everybody. So you could be saying, I feel like as a good Republican, I want there to be an active primary and I could sign all of them. But actually, you can only pick one. So it's 7,000 unique signatures, right, for anybody. So if there's like four candidates trying to get 7,000 each inside of that district, actually seemed harder to me than I realized.
It gets a lot harder. And what these companies do, I mean, the reality is I think the law was implemented with the idea that the candidates would get their grassroots support. They'd mobilize all their volunteers and supporters, and they'd collect these signatures. And let's be honest, what they do, and I guarantee that, candidates in the past that have done this and the ones currently, they just hire a company and pay them a chunk of change. And the going rate, my understanding, is around $10 or $12 per signature. So each of these candidates that turned in 7,000 signatures, I mean, the reality is they probably wrote a check for $120,000, $150,000 to get the signatures.
Right. And the thing that I guess bothers me about it, I love the notion of petition gathering. Absolutely protected in our First Amendment. You have the right to petition your government for redress of grievances. So I love the idea, right, of saying, I have this feeling, right? I'm going to talk to you about it. And if I talk long enough, I'm going to persuade you. So you're going to sign your name on some document for me. But you're right. That's totally not how it goes, right? Like I've seen people on my campus up at Weber State and they've got like they've got their, oh my gosh, I just lost the word, but the clipboard.
They've got the clipboard.
Gosh, it took me a minute. So they've got their clipboard and they're walking around, and a number of times I've said, so what is it about? And they will say, no, I was just paid to get these.
I have no idea. And that's the problem is you have a lot of these folks who are paid per signature. And so the reality is if they have that incentive to be paid by the signature, then a lot of times the signature may not be valid.
Right.
And so I remember I was the Republican Party chair during the 2020 election, and this was a huge issue with the governor's race because we had one governor's candidate, I won't mention by name, but for whom something like half of all the signatures were getting thrown out. And that candidate complained to the lieutenant governor and said, hey, something's fishy is going on with you validating my signatures. And the lieutenant governor basically responded, do you want to talk about what's fishy?
That's right. Where
How
is the
come
fishy?
half of your signatures are from, and do you really want to go there? And the reality is that candidate didn't want to go there. But that's what makes this process so interesting.
Yeah.
So we're going to see, and the reason we're talking about this is we have two candidates who, as of yesterday, Bruce Huff and Becky Edwards, have claimed to get the requisite number of signatures. One turned in 10,000. The other turned in 12,000. And the idea is, after throwing out the invalid signatures,
they should
have the 7,000.
All right. So let's stay with this story. After the break, we're going to have a conversation with Robert Axon, the Utah GOP chair, and, what all's happening with his party.
9:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Tim Hughes with a look at some of our top stories this hour. And we begin with breaking news. The man who worked as a personal aide to former President Trump has pleaded not guilty to charges related to the classified documents found in Trump's home. CNN reports the charges against Walt Nata included obstruction and concealment. The hearing in federal court lasted just a couple of minutes. Trump has already pleaded not guilty to charges in that case and will continue to follow developments here on KSL. In other news, local researchers are trying to figure out whether U.S. Magnesium's refinery or the Great Salt Lake itself is causing some of our bad air quality. Utah State Associate Professor Randy Martin tells KSL TV, either way, we have to do something.
In northern Utah, we are going to have some pollution problems for the next several years until we really get a handle on what we can do to help out. U.S.
Magnesium plans to challenge a NOAA study that claims they could be responsible for up to a quarter of the nasty air we breathe during the winter. The company tells KSL News Radio studies done by the Department of Air Quality show no correlation between their halogen emissions and those found in the air in the Salt Lake area. A former USU football player could be facing additional jail time for violating a protective order against a woman he's convicted of sexually assaulting. KSL News Radio's Heather Kelly has more.
The Cache Valley Daily reports Devonnie Stanley admitted to Logan police he called his victim from jail twice, but says it was a mistake. The judge sentenced Stanley to a 1-year sentence in May after he pled guilty to forcible sexual abuse during his freshman year. Violating a protective order is a third-degree felony.
Stanley is due back in court on July 19th on the latest criminal charges. We right now are keeping an eye on your money, and the Dow is down 468 points, right around 1.4%. The S&P down 1.25% or 56 this hour. The Nasdaq is off by right at 200 points. Coming up, another warm day, but it'll be the coolest, believe it or not, of the next 7. We'll take a look at what the weekend holds in your forecast. KSL News Time is 9:32.
We have enough people running around Broadcast House at 4 in the morning to field a football team.
Producers, reporters, the traffic team, and us.
This is Tim and Amanda.
Join us each morning from 5 to 9 on KSL News Radio.
The name's Osborne, Josh Osborne, and I'm so excited to announce our 00 summer sale here at Volkswagen Southtown.
Summers are for thrills, chills, and hot deals. Get a new high-tech VW for nothing down and no payments for 90 days. Our 00 agents are standing by to make sure you pay nothing down and have no payments for 3 months, so you can achieve your top secret mission this summer.
Come see why we're Utah's #1 Volkswagen dealer. Get to VWSouthtown.com.
2022 VW ranking. Financing through VCI on select models OAC. See dealer for details.
Take your home into the future with Jellyfish Lighting, an exterior lighting system that can be transitioned to decorative lighting for any occasion with the touch of a button on your smart device. These color-changing lights are permanently installed under the eaves of your home to be discreet from the street and dazzling in the dark. They can be used for holidays, game days, accent lighting, and more. Jellyfish Lighting, permanent year-round outdoor lighting. Visit jellyfishlighting.com today to get your free quote.
Hey, Derek Overstreet here from the New Millennium Group, financial advisors in Utah. You know, I've been helping people retire in the state of Utah for the last 20 years. The way we do that is we actually find out what is important to you. We create a step-by-step plan that takes into consideration your income, your debt, whether you want money from real estate, stock market, annuities, life insurance, whatever. If you want to deal with professionals, people that are fiduciaries and have a legal responsibility and obligation to do what's in your best interest, give my team a call at 888-999-6370. That's 888-999-6370. Or go to my website, utahsfinancialplanner.com. If you'd like to retire 3 to 5 years before you thought it was possible, give my team a call right now. 888-999-6370. That's 888-999-6370.
Angie's List is now Angie, and we've heard a lot of theories about why.
I thought it was an eco move. Fewer words, less paper.
No, it was so you could say it faster.
No, it's to be more iconic.
Must be a tech thing.
But those aren't quite right. It's because now you can compare upfront prices, book a service instantly, and even get your project handled from start to finish.
Sounds easy.
It is, and it makes us so much more than just a list. Get started at Angie.com. That's ANGI, or download the app today.
Here at the Almond Joy Factory, where tropical vibes abound, we use soft, fresh-tasting coconut.
The crunchiest almonds and delicious chocolate candy.
Ah, but do you know what our most important ingredient is? Sometimes you feel like a nut.
Sometimes you don't.
Almond Joy's got nuts and something even way better than that. Yes, Almond Joy is made with almonds and joy.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Granite Credit Union's high-yield savings certificates. Let's go back over to Andy Farnsworth.
We've got a little bit of a southbound slowdown on I-15 right now between Bluffdale and Point of the Mountain. Looks like we may have a crash. There is something causing that delay. It doesn't look like it's because of the rain. If there's any rain coming down, it's going to be up northern part of Salt Lake County and maybe a little bit in Davis County. But I do see a vehicle on the right shoulder at Point of the Mountain that is adding to this slowdown. No other delays on the freeway that I see right now between Ogden and Provo. Enjoy low maintenance, single-level luxury living planned community. Access to golf, pickleball, and open trails. Nilsson Homes in Davis-Weber County. Visit nilsonhomes.com. nilsonhomes.com. I'm Andy Farnsworth in the KSL Traffic Center.
Highs are going to be in the 90s, continuing for the rest of the week, and then the possibility that we hit triple digits coming on Tuesday. So a warm weekend with 98 Sunday, 96 Saturday, 99 on Monday. Just get ready for it. Make sure you're hydrated if you're going to go out and enjoy. Right now in Salt Lake City, still cloudy, 74 degrees at KSL News Radio, 102.7 FM, 1160 AM, and KSLNewsRadio.com, your all-day companion for news.
Dave and Dujanovic, your morning companions for talk, analysis, and key perspectives on Utah's biggest stories on KSL News Radio.
Welcome back to Dave and Dujanovic, except subbing in is me, Leah Murray, alongside Derek Brown, and we're having an excellent start to our morning, and we're glad that you joined us. So, Derek, for the last 2 weeks, there's been a lot of, I think, fun. Maybe fun's totally the wrong word.
That's totally the wrong word.
I'm sorry.
Well,
Interesting.
It depends who you're talking about. If
Okay,
you're,
go.
those of us in the working in the press, like it was a lot of fun.
And by fun, I mean to watch, right? And that local politics, which isn't always in the summer, got a lot going on. There has been kind of a lot going on because there were a lot of unknowns or conversations or questions about the candidacy of Celeste Malloy, who is the Republican nominee out of convention for the Congressional District 2 election, special election that is happening. Yesterday, the Utah GOP submitted her name, so she is officially the person on the ballot.
She's the party's candidate.
Party's choice out of the convention. And from the statement from the Utah GOP, over the past week and a half, many questions and assertions have arisen regarding the process. And basically, the party says we are forwarding this name. She is our candidate. And the reason why there was a minute, does that make sense? Like, because it's been like a week and a half of conversation. The party says, given the importance of the matter and our own desire to abide by our party bylaws, we opted to take the time to leave no stone unturned. So a little bit, I think, right there is answering the question of why Celeste Malloy's name wasn't submitted till yesterday, was that the party was doing its due diligence, by the way, over a holiday weekend, where I imagine a lot of people
I used the word
been.
fun earlier.
Yes,
it might have been fun for us, but there was
Right.
one person in particular for whom it was not fun.
And we feel we feel bad for him.
Exactly. As someone who could use a little
bit of love?
a little rest and relaxation in Mexico or something right now. I mean, that's what he could use. But we happen to have him on the call with us right now. We have the chairman of the Utah Republican Party, Robert Axon. Robert, thank you for joining us on KSL News Radio.
Hey, Leah, Derek, always good to be with you guys.
So talk to us, and I do feel sympathy. I'm so sorry I led this whole thing, but this was fun because I imagine for you it was not in any way fun, and I bet you totally didn't expect this drama happening. And you've been chair for like 4 seconds, right, Robert? So like this is like a lot right at the beginning. And I guess my first just out of the gate question is, are you okay? And how are you holding up?
Oh, very kind. And yes, here's why we're okay. It's because this is what you sign up to do when you're willing to volunteer. And the party and its process matters. The ability for voters and delegates to trust the process matters. And so we're happy to lean in when the opportunity provides itself for us to do so, even if it's not in the best of circumstances.
So you made the comment that you wanted to make sure no stone was left unturned. So tell us a little bit about what are the stones, the metaphorical stones you were turning over Because generally, when the convention ends for any political party, it's almost always a Saturday. And then the following Monday, you submit the name to the lieutenant governor. So when I was the chairman of the party, we had our convention. I remember it was the last Saturday in April. The following Monday, I submitted, I think, a total of 205 names all across the state to the lieutenant governor. And it was more just sort of a formality. There was no drama. Yep. And things were different for you with this race, such that you didn't do that the following Monday. Tell us why that is the case.
So the key thing was, in our party rules, like you said, the following Monday after convention is when you submit those names to the lieutenant governor. It doesn't really get to that degree of specificity as it pertains to a special election. And where everything with this special election was truncated in amount of time and everything else for candidates, for delegates, for the public at large, I felt it was important for us as a party to step up and do everything we could to facilitate transparency and understanding. That included doing debates prior to the convention, and it also included making sure to afford the time necessary to understand the concerns, the questions, the accusations, the rumors that were all being levied over the last week and a half. So when we talk about those metaphorical stones, it's looking into all of those. I'll tell you, every accusation or every question, many legitimate, others not so much, that were brought forward, we took seriously, and we looked into those and wanted to make sure that not only were we creating and supporting a fair process, but that we were abiding by the rules and limitations that we have as a party, and also where appropriate and where we had a role, abiding by our interactions and nexus with state law. Obviously, at the heart of it, and some of the lasting questions that exist are in areas of state law that we have no say in, and that the party cannot and should not be the arbiter of. And so that's where we had to look at those, but ultimately not to really weigh in on that space, and instead just weigh in on those things that are in our bailiwick.
All right, so Robert, I totally hear what you just said. And in your statement, you say that if there were any formal challenges to her eligibility per Robert's Rules of Order, it would have had to have happened prior to the election, right? And so I'm just kind of wondering, so is it over? Or do you expect there to be some more, is there going to be a lawsuit? Do you have any idea? Or we can put this in the rearview mirror, and now we're looking forward to the election in September and November?
So as a party, we are looking at it in the rearview mirror. We are ready to move forward with the next steps, and we certainly want to enthusiastically support our process and, most importantly, our convention winner. As our convention nominee, we want her to be successful, and so that's what we will do moving forward. But I have also been public in saying if somebody feels aggrieved, if a person with standing feels like they need to pursue a lawsuit, I do not personally find it appropriate to push against that. And the reason being is this country is blessed by having the opportunity for people to have recourse through the courts when they feel that that is their appropriate course of action. And we need to be careful as a country if we start to be fearful. That's part of the process, and we allow it to happen within the space that it's supposed to happen, and then we move forward. But the party will not be a participant in any litigation if it were to happen.
And so the bottom line is, it looks like all the parties, barring the signature process that we talked about a little earlier, all the parties now have their candidates. So the Democrats, the United Utah Party, and now the Republican parties have all submitted their candidates. And so, Robert, I'm assuming now the Utah Republican Party is standing behind the one candidate that they've nominated, correct?
Yeah, that will be our process. Certainly, if there is a signature qualified candidate, we will have to go through a primary process. But even still, according to our party rules, we support our convention winner, and so that is Celeste Malloy. And, this whole process also does highlight something over the last week and a half, and something that's important to me and many Utah voters, and certainly many Republicans, and that's the principles of election integrity. And this is why I wanted the space to occur where people could have open conversations and discussions prior to us submitting a name. Is the very basis and foundational piece of our constitutional republic is having elections that people trust, and elections that people can see as transparent and feel like they are a needed participant in. And so I think we need to never shy away from that, because ultimately whether our candidate or our cause wins or loses, it's important for everybody and the entire system for all of us to look at it and say, oh, great, my guy or gal won, or say, darn it, they didn't win this time, but we're going to fight for it, and hopefully we'll win next time. That's important. That's what we as a party did this last week. And now we're at the point where we will continue to try to facilitate that moving forward. But we can now talk about the principles and the platform of the Republican Party, which I believe will continue to win the day in CD2.
Oh, Robert, that totally just resonated with me. Thank you so much for being on our show this morning.
Okay, I appreciate you guys. Have a good one.
Yep. So later this morning, we will have Celeste Malloy on at 11:35, so make sure you're listening for that. Coming up next after the break, we'll be having a conversation, Derek, about ransomware criminals.
Dave and Dujanovic.
Hi, it's Tim Hughes and Amanda Dixon.
Why should you start your day with us?
We have decades of news experience between us.
And we take your trust seriously.
Come here for news tomorrow, 5 to 9.
On KSL.
I guess it's human nature, Amanda, that no matter how much money we have in our savings account, it never seems like it's enough. And if you find yourself in that mode right now, let us direct you over to our friends at UCCU. They are wanting to help you supercharge your savings.
UCCU is offering high-rate savings options with yields up to 5.5%. All you do is go to UCCU.com and select a high-rate savings option to do just what you said, supercharge your savings.
You're going to get a much bigger return on your savings right now. It's a savings certificate, which means you make one deposit up front and your money grows over a fixed period of time. So you can have that grow over 5 years, but UCCU has created some very short-term savings certificates with high yields, short like 6 months, 9 months, or a year.
So you decide how long do you want to put that money. You deposit money, a one-time only deposit, and then you let it stay in. The longer it stays in there, the higher the interest rate you earn.
And if you need immediate access to your money, UCCU's Money Market will give you a high yield and anytime access.
UCCU, you're going to love where you bank.
Do you know why more homeowners choose Any Hour Services for help when it's time to replace their air conditioners? What's up, everybody? I'm Mike Wilson with Any Hour Services, and the main reasons people choose Any Hour Services is because of our people, processes, and convenience. People tell us all the time that there's just something different about having an Any Hour Services technician in their home. That's why most of our over 18,000 Google reviews mention our technicians by name. Another reason is our 7-step install process that we call the Any Hour Difference. It all starts with the needs analysis, where you explain what you like and dislike about your current system. This helps us design and size a system that fits your comfort and efficiency preferences as well as your home's airflow requirements. As for convenience, most of our installs are completed in one day. We also have flexible, no money down financing options available, even if you've been told no in the past. So if you've been thinking about getting a new air conditioner, call Any Hour Services and schedule a free estimate today. Google Any Hour Services or schedule online at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
Men who have given up in their intimate life because of prostate issues, testicular cancer, or simply no ED treatments you've tried have worked. It's not the end. At Summit Men's Health, they have a customized approach for each individual patient to get results they desire and deserve. Stop wasting your time and money with treatments that don't work for most men, like Shockwave, Viagra, or the shots. Summit Men's Health guarantees results in your first visit, or you don't pay. Call Summit Men's Health today and get the spark back in your relationship. Summit Men's Health, 435-500-2790. They're so confident this will work for you, they promise if you don't get results on your first visit, they pay you $500 cash, no questions asked. Call Summit Men's Health today at 435-500-2790. That's 435-500-2790 to get the passion back in your love life.
Okay, it's hot outside and you need to cool. The new Air Compact appliances are up to 50% off retail. Yeah, life is about to get much cooler. At Warehouse B in Linden or at warehouseb.com, you're about to find out how much cooler. Either a new air or Frigidaire room-size evaporative cooling fan starting at $49. Yeah, that's cool. Or the new 126-can glass door beverage fridge starting at $149. Even cooler. Or a 48-quart electric camping cooler with dual zone starting at $249. That's seriously cool. With Warehouse B, everything is factory refurbished right here in Utah and comes with a 1-year warranty. Want more savings? Warehouse B is loaded with scratch and dent models that offer the kind of value your family needs today. Visit warehouseb.com and grab a countertop nugget pebble ice maker starting at $199. Shop warehouseb.com or visit their outlet store in Linden off I-15 at exit 273. Warehouse B.
With the three things you need to know this hour, I'm Tim Hughes. First, Meta's new app, Thread, the latest Twitter competitor, has officially hit the scene. Second, researchers are trying to figure out whether U.S. Magnesium's refinery or the Great Salt Lake itself is causing our bad air quality. And third, 3 new teen centers are coming to the Davis School District, which will bring resources to homeless students. On our way to a high today of 93 degrees, it's 74 now in Salt Lake City. Let's get you back to the Dave and Dujanovic Show on KSL News Radio.
Dave and Dujanovic, special coverage of the top national story.
Welcome back to KSL News Radio. I'm your host for the day, Derek Brown, with my good friend and sometimes co-host in the evening from KSL at night, Leah Murray.
I know, it's lovely to see you in the morning, Derek. It's a whole different
Usually
vibe.
it's the evening, so
Yeah.
it is. There's a lot of the news is different in the morning. The big stories break in the morning, not necessarily in the evening.
Right,
so
that's right.
So this is kind of fun. And one of the stories, if you've been listening to KSL today, the top of the hour, the last couple of hours, they've talked about kind of a disturbing story coming out of Minneapolis involving ransomware and ransomware criminals who are basically dumping files that contain personal information about kids in a school district and just dumping them online.
I know, like, the worst thing about this was I feel they're hackers, right? These criminals. And then they tried to get the public schools to pay $1 million ransom, right? And the schools, of course, are told not to, because I guess you're not supposed to pay ransom, and then just like all these files of these children. So, 1,900 former students, psychological evaluations, medical records leaked online, just... it's never okay, but my goodness, it's so not okay when it's kids, right?
Exactly. But for the kind of criminals who specialize in ransomware, the fact that it's kids is irrelevant. These are people without morals, without values, without any sort of moral compass, really. And the reality is, this is happening everywhere. Anyone in IT knows what this is. And it's their worst case scenario for anyone in the IT arena, because they basically get an email saying, your files are now locked. We've locked them. We've hacked in, and deposit, the following amount in this offshore account, or either A, you will never get them back, or B, they will be dumped on, some sort of public server or whatever. And that's what happened here in Minneapolis. Generally, they aren't dumped publicly. Because the files are something that those who have want back. But what makes today unique is that they didn't pay, and the school district, hoping that they wouldn't be, released publicly, they were.
Right. So we've got with us Earl Foote, CEO and founder of Nexus IT, to help us walk through what's going on. Welcome to the show, Earl.
Good morning, Derek and Leah. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah.
This is certainly a disturbing topic.
Yeah, and so let me just tell you, I'm a professor up at Weaver State, and a little bit I've got a grin on my face, Earl, because I'm always like, what is the worry? Now I'm thinking, oh my goodness, this is a major worry, right? So can you talk to us about how, to a certain extent, I've been flip in the education arena, because we just kind of think, how many characters does my password absolutely need? And this is just highlighting for me that, wow, maybe I do need 22 characters in my password.
Yeah, Leah, the threat, has become very, very real, unfortunately. And we're seeing, as Derek had mentioned, the malicious nature of cyber, criminals escalate significantly over recent years. Now targeting vulnerable population segments and easy targets like school districts. Of course, universities, have been targeted significantly in the last 4 or 5 years as well. And specifically, they seem to be targeting elementary, junior high, high school, schools and districts because obviously as, educators and parents, we value the privacy and security of our children, and the threat of having confidential data about, kids released online on the dark web is of significant concern to us. Hackers are banking on, the fact that because of that risk and our sensitivity to it, that, that ransoms will be paid. I don't know that strategy is necessarily working out for them as of right now. So they're reverting to the malicious tactic, which is, well, if you don't pay us, we're posting all this information online. The information from the Minneapolis school district, over 300,000 files of 36,000 students were posted, including, as you'd mentioned, mental health and medical records, but also info about sexual assaults, abuse of parents, suicide attempts, some very sensitive information. And in this situation, the hackers were adequately aggressive that they actually posted links to this data on the dark web on Facebook, Twitter, and Telegram. Really concerning sorts of trends that are happening, and certainly, safety and security and the privacy of children that are at risk.
So we've got Earl Foote with us, who's the CEO and founder of Nexus IT. And Earl, I know that this happens all over the place. This is a very, common occurrence. I mean, if you're a company that gets that email, that indicates that you're the victim of a ransomware attack, what do you do? What is the advice that you give to them? Who do they call? Because obviously large companies are well equipped to deal with this, but you've got smaller companies that also are subjects of these kind of attacks that may not know what to do. So what would your advice be?
Yeah, very good, Derek. And maybe just tying it to the subject matter of schools as well. The reality is schools and school districts right now are kind of ill-equipped to deal with these threats. They don't have adequate budget, and they don't have adequate protocol for what we would call incident response programs or incident response plans. So in a business, decent businesses will have an incident response plan formulated, which basically determines if they have a breach, if they have an incident, who do they contact, which is generally going to be a cyber attorney, cyber insurance, cyber professionals like our company to come in and do, forensic analysis, to remediate the situation, to get them back, safe and secure. And then they go about a process of disclosure and notification. That's where school districts are honestly falling short right now. And it's not just Minneapolis. In the last 12 months, LA school districts, San Diego, Des Moines, Tucson, and many more have been hit. In fact, some data shows that 1 out of 3 school districts nationwide have been hit over the past 4 or 5 years. The reality is schools are at a disadvantage right now. In the war on cyber, crime, and the exfiltration of sensitive data of students. My recommendation is for parents to get involved. Get involved in your local school associations. If you're an IT or cyber pro, figure out if you can donate time, help schools build real cyber programs, help them figure out how to train students and staff, because they are at a disadvantage right now. And some of that is just the realistic nature of what budget is allocated to them.
Right. And so we've got like 30 seconds left. I'm so sorry to ask you just a quick question.
Yeah.
But one of the things in the story that I saw was the parents were frustrated because the school officials initially had described the attack as like technical difficulties or a system incident. And some of the parents are saying, really, you should have told us? So what is the advice? Oh, my gosh, fast. Last 30 seconds we've got. What is the advice? Should we be more transparent? Meaning, should the school district have said, yeah, all right, go ahead.
Or does that actually hurt them in the end to be that transparent?
Right.
No, when it comes to school districts, my opinion is that they need to be transparent and disclose early on what's happening and give tools and information to parents and students about how they can potentially protect their data and report to the FBI Cybercrimes Division if data has been, posted on the dark web.
So don't just say technical difficulties. You should say we've been attacked, or this issue's happening, and let the parents know. Earl Foote, thank you so much for joining us today on the show.
Thank you.
Derek, that's just terrifying.
Well, and it's more and more common. I mean, that's the reality is, and for the most part, the criminals doing this. I mean, I'm sure we have them, the domestic component, but a lot of these are overseas. So, I mean, I've heard of a lot of these groups that are based in Russia, they're based in China, based in the Middle East. And so in terms of actually prosecuting them, if you can find them, good luck because they're overseas. All right, so stay with us after the break. We're going to talk about why not only are new home sales rising, but they're doing it even with the high interest rates. Stay with us.
Midvale, KSL Salt Lake City. Listen on the KSL News Radio app and in your car at 102.7 FM. KSL News Radio, your all-day companion for news.
It's 10 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Dan Bomas. KSL's top story this hour, the company behind Utah's COVID testing materials in 2020 now owes the Securities and Exchange Commission $250,000 in fines. KSL News Radio's Peter Johnson has that story.
Salt Lake-based company Co-Diagnostics put out 2 press releases in February 2020 that made its COVID screening products sound ready to hit the market. By that point, Co-Diagnostics hadn't received approval from the U.S. Food and Drug Administration or the European Union. But that didn't stop the company from pulling in around $10 million of stock purchases in the days following those releases. The SEC also charges Co-Diagnostics with hiding giant salaries for the family members of top executives for 6 years.
And each of those payouts were worth millions of dollars. Rocky Anderson and Mayor Aaron Mendenhall are both raking in lots of money in their race for the Salt Lake City mayor's office, but it's uneven. Campaign finance reports show Anderson has raised about $250,000. Mayor Mendenhall has put up more than double that. Mendenhall has raised money for 2 years longer than Anderson. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. 2 firefighters are dead after a fire broke out on board a cargo ship docked in Newark, New Jersey. ABC's Aaron Katersky has more.
Newark firefighters had not trained to fight fires on board cargo ships, but raced to Port Newark when the fire broke out on the 10th, 11th, and 12th floors of an Italian vessel carrying 5,000 cars.
This was definitely a unique fire for us.
Newark Fire Chief Rufus Jackson said there was a mayday call after 2 firefighters became trapped.
And this is like an ultimate sacrifice of the fire service.
Augusta Akabu and Wayne Brooks were the first Newark firefighters to die in the line of duty in almost 20 years. Aaron Katersky, ABC News, New York.
Your money at this moment, the Dow Jones average down sharply this morning, 451 points at this hour. The NASDAQ is down 173. And our KSL weather, we've got some clouds today. They'll disappear toward the end of the week. That's next. KSL News Time, 10:02.
Start your days with knowledgeable, friendly voices telling you about the latest news and weather out there.
Hi, this is Tim Hughes and Amanda Dixon.
In the business of waking you up each morning from 5 to 9.
On KSL News Radio.
Everything's changing so fast these days, and that's a great thing. Back in my day, we were lucky if we could get one video to load on a desktop computer, but now there's the Xfinity 10G network. That means the fastest internet with faster speeds rolling out all the time, and internet that can power a house full of devices with ultra-low lag. So one person streams a movie from their room, another can play video games in the basement, while another TikToks in the kitchen. It's the next generation 10G network only from Xfinity. The future starts now. Through September 21st, new customers can get 1.2 gigabit internet with unlimited internet data and Wi-Fi equipment included. It's all just $25 a month for 2 years with no annual contract when you add Xfinity Mobile with unlimited data at regular rates. Go to xfinity.com/10G, call 1-800-XFINITY, or visit a store today. Requires paperless billing and auto pay with stored bank account. Restrictions apply. Taxes and fees extra. Xfinity Mobile requires Xfinity Internet. After promo, regular rates apply to internet service and Wi-Fi equipment. Actual speeds vary.
Would you be upset if you lost $111,000 in retirement income? Get this, 96% of Americans, 96% lose an average of $111,000 in Social Security income. Learn how you could avoid this in a free report, the Social Security Decisions Guide from Boss Retirement Solutions, a 5-time winner of Utah's Best of State Award. If you've saved at least $200,000 and have not filed for Social Security, get this free report by calling 801-682-4448. This free report is loaded with critical information that can help you avoid losing $111,000 in Social Security income. So call 801-682-4448. That's 801-682-4448. Advisory services offered through Boss Retirement Advisors, an SEC-registered investment advisory firm. Insurance products and services offered through Boss Retirement Solutions.
You know, in Box Elder County, they're all about the bucket list. Want to go birding at the premier birding destination in the western United States? Well, check off the Bear River Migratory Bird Refuge. How about land art? The spiral jetty and sun tunnels will leave you inspired. Or stand on the spot where the Union and Central Pacific Railroads joined and forged the destiny of a nation. Yep, Golden Spike National Historical Park is like no other place. Check. Splash, boat, camp, or fish your day away? Willard Bay State Park will guarantee a good time. Soak in a natural hot spring with the highest mineral content in the world? That would be Crystal Hot Springs. You'll feel rejuvenated. Eat at Utah's original steakhouse. Maddox Ranch House is perfection. Check. A 1920s diner. The Idle Owl Cafe will transport you back in time. As you empty your Box Elder County bucket list, you'll find a whole new set of adventures to fill it up again. Fill up your bucket list at visitboxeldercounty.com.
Getting help with electrical repairs is easier than you think. All you have to do is call Any Hour Services or schedule an appointment at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Granite Credit Union's high-yield savings certificates. Here's Andy Farnsworth.
Got a crash southbound 15 at Point of the Mountain. They've got it on the right shoulder, but we still have slowdowns from the Bluffdale 146 South exit over the point and starting down the hill into Utah County. No other I-15 delays at the moment between Ogden, Salt Lake, Provo. 215, though, in the construction. A little bit busy right now on the east side, I-215 east at 4500 South. Utah Symphony's Deer Valley Music Festival in Park City features Ben Folds, Leanne Rimes, the Beach Boys, and more. June 30th through August 4th in Park City at DeerValleyMusicFestival.org. I'm Andy Farnsworth in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather, partly cloudy today with a high of 93. We could see some pop-up thunderstorms over northeastern Utah over the next several days. Temperatures will rise toward 100 on Monday and Tuesday. And right now, we're at 75 degrees and mostly cloudy skies right now at KSL News Radio. 102.7 FM, 1160 AM at KSLNewsRadio.com. Your all-day companion for news.
Dave and Dujanovic.
All right, welcome to David Dujanovic. Filling in for David Dujanovic this morning, I'm your host, Derek Brown, with my good friend Leah Murray. And we are having way too much fun.
Always too much
fun. This time of the morning. And all sorts of news going on. We just spent an entire hour sort of talking about everything from ransomware to politics, local, national politics. And we're going to talk for a minute, Leah, about sort of the interesting trends we see in the home market.
Right.
I mean, we've seen all these ups and downs the last couple of years, and I assumed that things would have kind of mellowed out by now. And that hasn't been the case.
Right. I have been very lucky in my home buying existence that I've never been in the middle of any of this kind of drama. Does that make sense? So whatever it is about the universe, when I am ready to buy a new home, which I've done twice, nothing really disruptive was happening. Does that make sense? So I watch these things and I just think, thank the Lord.
You timed it well.
No, I don't know that I did. It's just luck.
You just got luck.
Right.
Well, for a lot of people who want to be lucky and time the market, you need a certain degree of knowledge. I have a good friend of mine, Heather Groom, who is with us. Heather is with Keller Williams. She's been the top solo agent the last 2 years, specializes in things like first-time home buyers and luxury properties, and has done a lot of work and selling a lot of stuff in the southern Utah area, and kind of is my go-to person on this issue. So, Heather, welcome to the show.
Well, thanks for having me. I'm happy to be on.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about what's going on. Now, for someone who's not involved in this full-time, it seems to me that when you have these super high interest rates, and we were reminded how high they are because you see these billboards on I-15, which may have been a good idea when rates were 2.5%,
right.
And now I was seeing this morning, they're like at 6%. You would think that would slow down all the new home sales, but it hasn't, or has it? Heather, give us the scoop. What's really going on?
Well, that's a really, really great point. So historically, like when we look at a bigger picture of interest rates, really interest rates are not as high. Even though we may not like 6%, it's not historically high. I mean, back in the day, there were 18% interest rates that our parents had. I know my first home was at 8%, and I thought, wow, that is amazing. I'm getting a great interest rate. We've been a little bit tainted over the last few years when we've been getting 2% or 3% interest rates. And so, yes, it's increased, but historically, when we look at a bigger average, it's not so bad. But I do believe it's a contributing factor. And I think when we look at last year, the market did slow down drastically when interest rates, kept spiking up. It slowed down, and then people waited to buy. And now they're starting to see prices have come down just a little bit, although they are starting to go back up now. And they've waited, and then now they're saying, okay, now I need to buy. They're also expecting that interest rates will drop possibly next year. And so they're saying, hey, I'd rather refinance and get a lower purchase price right now, which is a great idea, and then refinance later.
All right. So according to this report from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, the number of new home sales rose for the third time in May, going up like 20% over last year, 12% up in April of this year. Is that what Utah's housing market looks like as well? Like, are we having that kind of increase in our market, similar to the national trend?
Yes, we are actually. And what we saw a major slowdown. And then after the slowdown, we've now been picking up. Where we've been kind of in the middle is in what I call the middle market. So there's a middle market of people that cannot really justify leaving their 2.5% interest rate in order to upgrade to the next home. But if you're looking at first-time home buyers, we still are at, we've got a big influx coming in. They are buying. Home sales are definitely up. I mean, you're starting to see multiple offers again. And I'm even seeing multiple offers in luxury homes because we didn't build enough over the last few years. And during COVID, things really slowed down. And so we had inventory problems. We've had, it's kind of the perfect storm, really. And what we're seeing is definitely home sales are coming back. They're coming back strong. And even people that are moving here, we've got a lot of people that now are starting to Google and say, hey, where's a good place for me to move, or what's a business-friendly state? And Utah has historically, in the last few years, been winning all these awards. And so we're getting to be on the map for other people to come to Utah. And they're starting to say, hey, I want to come here. It's a good place for my business and my family. And so we have record number of people coming as well.
So tell us, why is there a high demand for new homes? I mean, it seems to me that with a market like this, I mean, the existing inventory would be such that you wouldn't need new homes. But is that, I mean, I see these large sort of condo projects popping up all over the state, tens of thousands of units. I mean, do we simply not have the inventory in Utah? I mean, is that why we're seeing that?
We're seeing it because people are wanting to invest in Utah. They're saying, you know what, and there's a lot of these kind of our millennials waited to purchase for a number of years, and now kind of these younger generations that are starting to say, okay, I want my own place, and what they can afford is going into a condo or a townhome. And like you said, there are definitely these bigger projects popping up, and there are programs to help the first-time home buyer. I'm a little bit more concerned about this kind of second-time or middle market, where they're not able to really afford the payment because the interest rate is now up, and they can't really justify moving into, something a little bit bigger. So you've got kind of a little crunch right there. But the first-time home buyer, there's different programs available now, and I think lenders are starting to get a little more creative and say, okay, what can we do? What kind of programs can we have for, there's buy down programs, there's different things available. But definitely there's some extremes in the market of what I'm seeing. And like I mentioned, even with luxury homes, we haven't historically been even building quite a bit of luxury. And we have people moving here from other states that come into the market, and they, the build process may take 2 years, and they don't have 2 years to build. They're saying, hey, I'd like to already buy something that's maybe newer. And the reason I think people like newer is just because then they don't have the repairs. It's more of a predictable payment of what they're going to be spending per month.
So we have Heather Groom with Keller Williams. One last question, Heather. Where do you see this going here in Utah? I mean, obviously, there's a lot of action, a lot of movement, but realistically, do you see a slowdown? Do you see it increasing? I mean, I'm hoping things here in Utah come back to normal, but it seems to me the secret's out in terms of Utah. There's no sort of putting a lid on that.
That's exactly right. I think the secret is out. We're not one of the best kept secrets anymore. And that's what I'm hearing from even my buyers that are moving here from out of state. I've had buyers that had never been to Utah but are moving here, but they love it. And I don't see the market slowing down. I'm actually picking up business. I think that we're going to get busier. And I think right now is actually a pretty great time to buy because the prices did drop a little bit. But like I said, I'm already starting to see that they're starting to head up. So right now, I think is a great time to buy. It may hurt on the interest rate a little bit, but just know that it will, there will be a time when you can refinance.
Exactly. And hopefully sooner than later, that's the case.
Exactly.
All right. We've had Heather Groom with Keller Williams. Thank you, Heather, for joining us on KSL News Radio.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
All right. And next up on KSO, we will be talking about the amount of money that a survey showed that Americans feel like they need to be financially successful, and you'll be surprised what that number is. So stay with us.
Dave and Dujanovic.
Before Dave and Debbie get started each day, this station is all news all morning.
And later today, we follow up on those stories as you drive home.
Get important news all morning and all afternoon.
Here on KSL News Radio.
The race to replace.
Certifying begins.
Had both parties scrambling to get candidates on the ballot.
Republicans will be the only party with a primary.
Listen here for the nominees who made the cut and the beginning of the campaign. The race to replace. Updates mornings and afternoons this week on KSL News Radio, your all-day companion for news.
Martin's Collision Repair.
50,000 cars repaired and counting. Just check Martin's 5-star online reviews.
And posted, Martin's service and professionalism is superb. They've repaired my Lexus beautifully in record time.
Hi, I'm Tiago Martins. Check Martin's Facebook page or martinscollision.com for your 5-star Martin's experience. On State Street in Norham and in Salem, we work with all insurance companies.
The right repair, the right paint, the right choice. Martin's Collision Repair.
Hey, summer's here, and it's only getting hotter. Get 0 down, 0 interest, and 0 payments for a year on a new day and night air conditioning system.
Don't put it off. Summer is here, and it's hot. Have a new day and night air conditioner and furnace system installed with 0 down, 0 interest, and 0 payments for 12 months. Enjoy savings and a cool, comfortable home for a full year before you even have to make a payment. Go to dayandnightcomfort.com for a day and night elite dealer near you. The difference is day and night.
Jim Weber is here from Foothill Oriental Rugs, where the semi-annual sale is underway now. And Jim, the great thing about Foothill Oriental Rugs is that you take out the middleman.
We actually do. And as a result, our retail prices are 25% below the industry average before we even put them on sale. So when we have a sale, it's the real deal. Right now, for instance, we've got a 12x15 Afghan vegetable dyed Mughal, regular price $95.03, on sale for $2,851. We've got an 8x10 Afghan vegetable dyed Agra, regular price $29.33, 70% off, on sale for $8.80.
Talk about the experience when someone comes into Foothill Oriental Rugs.
Well, we encourage people to take rugs home and try them before they decide. I get customers all the time who tell me they bought something online and they didn't look good in their room and wasn't the right size. So with this product, you really need to see the texture and feel the texture, and you really need to see it in your space before you make a decision.
Don't miss out. The semi-annual sale is underway now at Foothill Oriental Rugs, 1460 South Foothill Drive, just south of Foothill Village.
Okay, it's hot outside and you need to cool. The new Air Compact appliances are up to 50% off retail. Yeah, life is about to get much cooler. At Warehouse B in Linden or at warehouseb.com, you're about to find out how much cooler. Either a new Air or Frigidaire room-size evaporative cooling fan starting at $49. Yeah, that's cool. Or the new 126-can glass door beverage fridge starting at $149. Even cooler. Or a 48-quart electric camping cooler with dual zone starting at $249. That's seriously cool. With Warehouse B, everything is factory refurbished right here in Utah and comes with a 1-year warranty. Want more savings? Warehouse B is loaded with scratch and dent models that offer the kind of value your family needs today. Visit warehouseb.com and grab a countertop nugget pebble ice maker starting at $199. Shop warehouseb.com or visit their outlet store in Linden off I-15 at exit 273. Warehouse B.
Hey everybody, it's Julie coming to you from Logan, Utah's heart of the arts. We've got not one, not two, but 3 historic theaters in one block downtown. They're all bursting with live performances. Trust me, you do not want to miss out. Utah Festival Opera and Musical Theater has 300 professional artists and staff from all over the country performing their hearts out with music by a full live orchestra. You might not realize that having a full live orchestra is a big deal, but it is totally a big deal. They're doing Aida the Opera and Aida the Broadway version, the opera Lohengrin, which has only been performed 5 times in the entire United States. Plus Oliver and Our Town, too. They don't call it Utah Festival for nothing. In addition to shows, there's Breakfast with the Stars, late-night cabarets, concerts, workshops, and silent movies with organ accompaniment. Oh my! Wait, just when you think it can't get better, this year only, Utah students in public and private schools get a free ticket to any or all shows they want. What? I know. Don't miss out. UtahFestival.org. UtahFestival.org.
With the 3 things you need to know this hour, I'm Dan Bomas. First, the company that got a big no-bid contract from the state of Utah at the beginning of the COVID pandemic is now facing fines from government regulators. Second, ransomware attackers made good on their threats and dumped sensitive data from school records in Minneapolis. Third, Waldnow, the personal aide to former President Trump at his home in Florida, has pleaded not guilty to charges in the classified documents case. Right now, 75 degrees, mostly cloudy in Salt Lake City. And back to Dave and Dujanovic on KSL News Radio.
Dave and Dujanovic.
Subbing in for Dave and Dujanovic today is me, Leah Murray, and my good friend Derek Brown as we're chatting about all the interesting things. So, Derek, a million years ago, or I don't know, it feels like a million years ago, I heard Oprah Winfrey say that all you really needed was $100,000 a year to feel comfortable in America. So I think probably that was late 90s, early 2000s, but in my head, do you know what I mean? Like that was the goal. I needed to get my own income or my household income to $100,000 so I could just buy tickets to the game, right? Like I wouldn't have to be budgeting around. If I want to go see a Jazz game, I can just go. But what's interesting is according to a new Bankrate survey, which I guess makes sense to me because that was like a minute ago, the average American feels that they would actually need over $200,000 a year to be financially comfortable. And I guess I define that as being able to buy a Jazz game
tickets. For you,
know,
it's
right?
all, it comes down to tickets.
A little bit
so
for
for
me,
those of you
it's
who don't know Leah, as long as she can get the tickets to the sports game, especially baseball games,
yes,
she's happy.
I'm
She's
happy.
living her best life.
That's right. And then specifically, they say they would need to earn approximately $233,000 a year. Derek, does that make sense to you?
It does. And what's interesting is they also asked, what is the number? And think about this, those of you who are listening, to be rich and achieve financial freedom, what is the number you need to make per year? Think about what that number is. And as you're thinking about that, I'm now going to tell you what the result was. The number was $483,000. So that's rich financially freedom as opposed to just being comfortable, which is $233,000.
That's right. So we have got with us the author of the article that we're pulling this data from, Sarah Foster, a Bankrate analyst. Thank you so much, Sarah, for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
All right, so tell us if we got anything wrong, and also tell us what is a breakdown, what are other numbers that maybe we're not missing or that what we should be seeing out of the data from your survey?
Yeah, well, it is interesting here. We looked at, the average salary that workers made in 2021 based on Census Bureau data, and it was about a third of what Americans say they need to feel financially comfortable. So obviously Americans, we're seeing that they're grappling with a rapid increase in the cost of living. Of course, we all know that inflation has surged. And overwhelmingly, the factors that Americans who are financially insecure are blaming for their lack of security has to do with the economy. So 63% pointed to high inflation and 48% cited the economic environment.
So Sarah, have inflation isn't as much a problem for the average worker if their wages are raising, in a measurable way with inflation. Has that been the case, or has inflation been outpacing what the average, person here in Utah makes in terms of salary?
Well, we've actually for so long here been in this situation where inflation is actually outpacing the average pay that workers have been getting. We even saw through a previous Bankrate survey that more than half of workers who got a pay increase say that it hasn't kept pace with inflation. But, the good news is that inflation right now is getting a little bit better. And just last month, we saw for the first time that inflation is rising at a slower pace than wages. So you could see the tides kind of flip here. But I think, one thing that we know about high inflation is that it leaves scars on Americans' wallets. So even if we do get into the situation where eventually wages might grow faster than prices overall, you still could be feeling some financial pain from it as you try to make up for that ground that you lost.
So, Sarah, talk to me about this, because these are feelings. So my question kind of is, I could feel financially insecure, but actually be financially secure. Or I could feel everything's great and actually be like a hot mess financially. To what extent do you think there's any disconnect between the way Americans feel and how much money they're actually making vis-a-vis the market and what they can actually purchase?
Yeah, well, something that I've been kind of paying attention to is that, salary isn't everything. In fact, if you could be someone who's making higher than most workers in the U.S., but you could still be feeling financially insecure if you're dealing with credit card debt, student loan debt, maybe if you're also priced out of the housing market. So I think these financial feelings are really valid, and obviously the way that we perceive the economy all has to do with our individual experience as well. But kind of the lesson that we hope to tell Americans is that it's really important to just make do with what you have. It doesn't matter how big the financial steps you're taking are. It just matters that you're taking them, and really focus on what you can and cannot control.
So, Sarah, one of the interesting things that we see, and this is maybe just human nature or psychology, is that as you make more, your needs, your wants also grow, right? And so I find it's interesting. I would love to know, and I don't know if this is something that you can sort of piece together from the survey, but you've got, the average American feels they need to earn $233,000 to be secure or comfortable. I'm wondering, is it the case that most of the people who said that are not making $233,000, and those that are making that, if you ask them, they're going to give you a higher number. You know what I'm saying? Like do our needs continue to outpace our income? And so effectively anybody you ask for what that number is, it's probably going to be higher than whatever it is they're making. Am I right about that?
Something that you're hinting at here is we often like to refer to it as lifestyle inflation, and we saw that kind of come into play here in our data. We saw that overwhelmingly Americans aren't really ever making more money than they say they need to feel comfortable, and even that the salary, the income that they feel they need to earn rises with income too. So Americans, I think that's safe to infer that, the more money Americans make, the higher the income they likely may need to report feeling rich or even comfortable.
And the things that you believe are your needs maybe aren't, or the things that were wants become needs. I remember in college, we ran out of money, and so I couldn't afford my contact lenses, so I simply wore glasses. Right now, if that would not be the case, because needs and wants kind of alternate a little bit, don't they?
Yeah, well, there is something to be said about the way that your standard of living does adjust the more money you make. Maybe you get a raise and you see it as that time to, hey, maybe I can afford to move to that bigger apartment with higher rent, or maybe I can afford to get that nicer brand new car that might come with a little bit more of an expensive monthly payment. It all kind of comes full circle here. And even in our data, we saw that Americans, anytime when they get a raise, they plan on increasing their discretionary spending at 72%.
Right. That's what it's like, the thing I used to say about myself was eventually the way I like to live caught up with my means. Right? I had really not done a good job. So I'm wondering if you could talk about, because you said earlier, separate what you can and can't control, but you had some other tips for us about how to become more financially secure. Are there one or two that you would elevate?
Yeah, I think the most important thing to remember is that compound interest and time in the market almost matters more than how much you're saving for emergencies or investment overall. And that can really help increase your financial security. I think financial comfortability is really this destination. It's a journey. It's not necessarily this linear kind of timeline where we go through waves. And it's important to really take steps now to feel financially secure. it's not something that you one day achieve when you do kind of hit that salary sweet spot. So I think that's really important to remember, as well as just setting realistic salary expectations with yourself.
And Sarah, one of the things I found interesting in your article is that the amount of money someone feels like they need to be financially comfortable is different for each of the generations. And the highest, correct me if I'm wrong here, but wasn't the highest the Gen Xers feeling they need more than any other generation to feel financially comfortable?
Yeah, Gen X, and we're kind of thinking, my theory here is that they are kind of the sandwich generation right now. They're handling, raising their children. They're also dealing with their own substantial student loan debt, and they're also caring for their aging parents. And so what I think you kind of see here is that amounting to a lack of financial security, at least compared to other generations.
All right, Sarah Foster, bank rate analyst, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thanks for having me.
Derek, after the break, I want to chat about the 2024 presidential election because things are heating up in Iowa and New Hampshire.
It's 10:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Dan Bomas. KSL's top local story this hour. Local researchers trying to figure out whether U.S. Magnesium's refinery on the Great Salt Lake is causing some of our bad air quality. Utah State Associate Professor Randy Martin tells KSL-TV, either way, we may have to do something.
In northern Utah, we are going to have some pollution problems for the next several years until we really get a handle on what we can do to help out.
U.S. Magnesium plans to challenge a NOAA study that claims they could be responsible for up to a quarter of the nasty air we breathe during the winter. The company tells KSL News Radio studies done by the Department of Air Quality show no correlation between their emissions of chlorine and bromine and those found in the air in the Salt Lake area. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. Walt Nauta, former President Trump's longtime aide, who's been accused of helping his boss move and hide boxes of classified material, went to court today in Miami and pleaded not guilty. ABC's Aaron Katursky also says a new indictment has been released in that case.
That document outlines why Nauta is even included in the case in the first place. We know from the indictment. But back last summer, right before the FBI got the authorization to search, they said they had Nauta on video actually moving the boxes. I imagine that video will probably pop up at trial.
Trump has also pleaded not guilty to charges in that case. Your money at this moment, the Dow Jones average sharply down on the day, 433 points right now. The NASDAQ is down 146. And our KSL weather, we had a little bit of cloud, some rain this morning, but it's going to dry out. That's next. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 10:32.
This summer, the political season heats up.
By August, it'll be time for debates. Can you believe it?
We're planning coverage of the real issues, the important stories that impact how we live.
Listen each morning from 5 to 9 on KSL News Radio.
So you'd like to start enjoying your home a little more without climbing the stairs or doing yard work. How about spacious living in a newly designed, planned community with access to activities like golf, pickleball, and even leisurely strolls on beautiful open trails? It's yours with Nilsson Homes. They've been building homes across the Wasatch Front for over 45 years. Now see their latest single-level living community in Davis and Weber County. Brand new, move-in ready homes in the heart of Davis and Weber County, offering all the things you want in low-maintenance, luxury, single-level living. Easy access to just about everything. And best of all, no more stairs, lawnmowers, or yard work. Nilsson Homes has thought of everything, and it's done for you. Take advantage of amazing financing or reverse mortgage options. Nilsson Homes, luxury, low-maintenance living. Visit nilssonhomes.com. That's Nilson homes.com.
Have you Googled yourself lately? Are there negative posts from an ex-employee or from a former client? Maybe an outdated news article or sensitive personal information about your family? Search engines don't always get it right. For right or wrong, it's your reputation on the line. That's where Reputation Defender by Norton comes in. One of the most trusted names in online reputation repair, Reputation Defender has been fixing people's search results for over 15 years. Their cutting-edge approaches help you to wipe away unwanted information in your search results. They also promote the good stuff so that it rises to the top, helping you put your best foot forward. Your good name is too valuable to leave to the whims of a Google algorithm. Take control with Reputation Defender. You can start by getting your free reputation report card at reputationdefender.com or call 800-401-6681 to speak to an expert. That's 800-401-6681.
This is an important notice to consumers facing $10,000 or more in credit card debt, medical bills, or other unsecured debt. You may not be required to pay it all back because there are special programs that will significantly reduce the amount you owe if you qualify. Accredited Debt Relief has helped qualify consumers with over $1 billion in debt. This is not bankruptcy or a debt consolidation loan. For this free information, call 800-786-3400. That's 800-786-3400.
The name's Osborne, Josh Osborne, and I'm so excited to announce our Double O summer sale here at Volkswagen Southtown.
Summers are for thrills, chills, and hot deals. Get a new high-tech VW for nothing down and no payments for 90 days. Our Double O agents are standing by to make sure you pay nothing down and have no payments for 3 months, so you can achieve your top secret mission this summer.
Come see why we're Utah's #1 Volkswagen dealer. Get to VWSouthtown.com.
2022 VW ranking. Financing through VCI on select models OAC. See dealer for details.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Granite Credit Union's high-yield savings certificates. Here's Andy Farnsworth.
We got something going on southbound I-15, trying to exit the freeway at 400 South in Salt Lake City. This is for people coming out of Davis County who drive through Salt Lake. It's right after the turn to go to I-80 by the airport. That ramp is open. It's the 400 South ramp where everybody seems to be coming to a stop. So a few blocks of delay right through southbound 15 in downtown. Southbound at Point of the Mountain, that earlier problem with the stalled vehicle is cleared, and everything's back to normal there. Plan your Bear Lake vacation and check out their fun events happening all summer long. County fairs, Bear Lake Monster Swims, and the Caribbean Cruise Motorcycle Rally. For more information, visit bearlake.org. I'm Andy Farnsworth in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather, partly cloudy today with a high of 93. We could see pop-up thunderstorms over northeastern Utah over the next 3 days. Temperatures rise toward 100 on Monday and Tuesday. And right now, we're at 77 degrees, partly cloudy skies at KSL News Radio, 102.7 FM, 1160 AM, and KSLNewsRadio.com. Your all-day companion for news.
Dave and Dujanovic.
Good morning. Welcome to Dave and Dujanovic. Subbing in for those fabulous people are me, Leah Murray, and my good friend Derek Brown. And we're trying to be maybe almost as fabulous.
Channeling our inner Dave and
That's right.
Debbie is what we're doing.
Yeah. All right. So my favorite time of year right now politically is actually this year because presidential elections are my favorite elections to talk about and to watch. And the year before the presidential election is the invisible primary, right, Derek? This is when we are watching to see who's getting money, who's getting endorsements, who's actually going to go the distance, what media are trying to pick their favorites because every big pundit's trying to pick the name that's going to be the one that
Who's
goes.
showing up at which parade?
Oh, I know. So let's talk about this. Let's talk about this. Let's pick on Democrats first, Derek, a little bit. So in 2020, what had been true since my entire life, since the 1970s, the first caucus of the season was Iowa. The first primary of the season was New Hampshire. So every human running for president went to those states. In Iowa, in 2020, the Democratic caucus didn't function particularly well.
Oh, that's a generous way of putting it.
Yeah.
I remember, in fact, I was the chairman of the Utah Republican Party at the time, and I remember the night that they had this just unmitigated disaster. And sort of joking with my staff, I said, look, we probably should say a quick prayer for the poor guy who's running the party there because I don't think Iowa will ever recover. And in fact, the Democrat Party chose after that night to say, you know what, our days with Iowa in its front-runner status are a thing of the past.
Right. So people who don't remember, basically, the caucus didn't run well, and people were coming out, and I was teasing some of the candidates off the air who just claimed they had won, even though they were in last place, and we didn't know results for weeks. And to a certain extent, Elizabeth Warren as a candidate came out of Iowa in third, but got no bump because it ended up being so delayed in the response. And so it was an unmitigated disaster. So it's not as important for Democrats. But Derek, remind us, it's still important for Republicans, right? So you guys are going to keep Iowa front. And I mean you guys, but the Republican Party is going to keep Iowa as its first caucus in its cycle.
It's still there, and it still has an interesting role to play. And so you have the usual talk about corn subsidies and some of the other things that are going to be front and center. But the reality is, I mean, Super Tuesday is growing. Utah is now a part of Super Tuesday.
Right. We have some game a little bit, right, in those primaries.
Exactly. And so, I mean, it still has a role to play, but in the end, not as big a role.
And did Republicans feel the same way? Because I know it, to a certain extent, listeners, if you've got an incumbent, so you've got your Republican President Trump is running, we're not talking in 2020 about Republicans in Iowa or New Hampshire as much because they had their candidate. But did you watch what happened to the Democrats and you also thought maybe we should make other things more important?
Exactly.
Okay,
Well, and the reality is for the kind of election that just was a disaster in Iowa at the party level, you have to have a significant amount of resources and technology. And let's be honest, most parties just don't. They don't have the resources, and particularly in states like Iowa, even though they should.
Yeah.
So do you want to talk briefly? The Republican field is just
Wide
growing
open.
by the day. Now,
Right.
the Democrat field basically is President Biden and to some degree the guy that we refer to as having the positively presidential pecs. This is RFK Jr. And for those of you who have seen it, there's this video of him on YouTube.
Don't watch it.
Don't watch it. Just trust us. We've seen it. He's bench pressing with his shirt off. And in fact, one article referred to his six-pack and packs. They said it's both disturbing and enviable at the same time.
Yeah, it's bizarre, right?
He's almost 70 years old.
Right.
But he's made some waves, and he's got double-digit approval ratings in the Democrat Party.
Right.
Now, it's probably still not going to go anywhere.
Right. But so I want to be clear to listeners. It's 2024. Democrats have their president who is intending to run. So we're not picking on them as much, not because Derek and I are in any way more a fan of the Republicans or less a fan of the Democrats, but because it's just not as interesting. On the Republican side, there's just so many people running because it's an open race over there. And this is what I wanted to kind of draw the
Open
point
with
to.
a former
With a former
president
president
running, so
too.
it's open-ish,
Interesting.
right?
Yeah, like open adjacent. Maybe it's open adjacent. So what happens this past 4th of July, which is a big holiday, thousands of people are outside celebrating Independence Day. I was, I'm sure Derek was, I'm sure you all were too. But in New Hampshire and Iowa, it becomes political because it's the summer before the presidential election season, and they are all there demonstrating how patriotic they are, right? And we're picking on Republicans, although there were some no-name Democrats also involved as well. But we're picking on Republicans just because that field's wide open. So, Derek, the question I have for you is, if you were running for the presidency this year as a Republican, would you have gone to New Hampshire for their 4th of July festivities, or would you have been in Iowa, and why?
And you know what? That's not only a good question, that's a question that's up for debate, as we
Right.
saw from different candidates. I mean, there are reasons strategically for both. So in New Hampshire, for instance, we had Governor DeSantis, who by all indications still appears to be kind of the number 2 choice behind President Trump. For those of you watching, former President Donald Trump, notwithstanding the breaking news we had a few moments ago here on KSL Radio about his aide who is pleading not guilty, the reality is he's still far and away kind of the front runner in this race. But for someone like Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, he was in New Hampshire. You have North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum, former Representative Will Hurd from Texas, who's also a candidate, as well as someone that I think we're going to hear a lot more about, Senator Tim Scott.
Right. So over in New Hampshire, and by the way, it doesn't matter what the polling is. It matters how these primaries and caucuses go. Right. So I want to be clear that even if the former president is in the lead, if Ron DeSantis picks up the New Hampshire primary, do you know what I'm saying? Like the polling is just how do you feel about people, the delegates, and how they choose the delegates for the national convention and how they are committed to which candidate matters in these primaries. So, all right, let's look at Iowa. Oh, we'll pick on Iowa a little bit over here in Iowa.
Start with that.
We've got Miami Mayor Francis Suarez starting his 4th of July, and he ran a 5K. Like a little bit, I love a candidate who's like, let me show you how fit I am, right? I'm going to go run this.
He's 45 years old. He's the mayor of Miami. He won 2 terms in 2017 and then in 2021. And he is a Miami-born Cuban-American with degrees in law and finance.
Yeah.
So he's someone you may not have heard about,
Yeah,
but
an
he's a
interesting
real
candidate.
contender.
And I would imagine being 45 and running a 5K to show that he's young to a certain extent.
I think there's a reason.
Apart.
I mean, when you have a 2 front runners, a current president and a former president, both of whom At the end of their term
Octogenarians.
would be octogenarians. Exactly.
That's right.
That you're making a point.
Right. So then we've got over in Iowa, too, we've got former Vice President Mike Pence, who is running. Then Burgum, who you mentioned, flew from New Hampshire to Iowa. So Burgum actually double dipped, right? So we had 2 states that day on the 4th of July. But we've also got Larry Elder, who's running, radio host as a Republican, former governor of Arkansas, Asa Hutchinson, also in Iowa. So I like what you said when I asked you the question, right? The answer is, who knows which path is going to work? But I feel like, what do you think about the fact that the former president wasn't in either location?
Well, and that's one of the most interesting things because that is the proverbial elephant in the room. Why
Right.
isn't he there? Is it because of all the negative press that he's getting? Is he kind of hunkering down? Although that's not his style. He's the kind of person who loves to be front and center and have people talking about him. Although I don't know that I see him necessarily walking in a parade.
Right. Oh, no, right. But it's interesting. Just kind of begs those questions, right? All right. So, Derek, thank you for tripping down the lane with me for the 2024
and we didn't even have a
election.
chance to go through all the different candidates. To my last count, there's 12 different Republican candidates, and then another 3 or 4 that are almost certainly going to do it, like Len Youngkin or Kristi Noem. That are, so there's a
We'll be talking about it.
The field is wide open there.
Yeah, you and I over the next few months will be paying attention. But listeners, right after this break, come back because we've been chatting local and national. We want to take a moment to shed some light on what's happening in Israel. There's been some airstrikes launched on Gaza, and we're going to have a conversation about it after the break.
Dave and Dujanovic.
Hey, stay right here for more of Dave and Dujanovic.
And tomorrow morning, come back here for news, traffic updates, and reliable weather.
Join us to have a listen. Tim and Amanda.
Your morning companions for news.
Hi, Doug Wright, and let's talk about your barbecue. And let's talk about your barbecue skills. Maybe that old barbecue of yours was buried under the snow and you're just now in the process of getting it functional again. Now, we know you grill a pretty mean steak, but how about if we just all relax? It's July. We've been doing a lot of celebrating lately. It's time to get into Ruth's Chris Steakhouse. Why not let them grill the perfect steak for you and for your family? Ruth's Chris Steakhouse, they have 2 locations, Hotel Park City and, of course, downtown Salt Lake City. A lot of people like to kind of mesh things together. They're going to a ball game, going to a movie, or they're going to go up hiking in Summit County in the Park City area. Well, they make the reservation for that evening at Ruth's Chris Steakhouse, and you're going to have the best steak you have ever had. And the desserts, the side dishes, the other entrees too. It's Hotel Park City and 275 Southwest Temple in downtown Salt Lake City.
As you near retirement, there's a lot you need to know about how your money will be taxed. How will it be taxed today? How might it be taxed when you're retired? Utah's retirement specialists, Capital Wealth Advisors, have a complimentary report called Tax Strategies for Retirement. See the updated tax brackets and current itemized deductions, as well as strategies to potentially lower your tax bill in the future, and much more. Call 801-210-5500 or go to retireutah.com to receive this complimentary report. That's 801-210-5500 or go to retireutah.com. Take charge of your taxes today to help you keep more of the money you've earned. Get tax strategies for retirement from Capital Wealth Advisors by calling 801-210-5500 or visiting retireutah.com. Firm offers insurance services but may not give tax advice. Advisory services offered through Capital Wealth Advisors, LLC, a state of Utah registered investment advisor.
And we're live here outside the Perez family home, just waiting for the... And there they go, almost on time this morning. Mom is coming out the front door strong with a double-arm kid carry. Looks like Dad has the bags. Daughter is bringing up the rear. Oh, but the diaper bag wasn't closed. Diapers and toys are everywhere. Ooh, but Mom has just nailed the perfect car seat buckle for the toddler. And now the eldest daughter, who looks to be about 9 or 10, has secured herself in the booster seat. Dad zips the bag closed, and they're off. But looks like Mom doesn't realize her coffee cup is still on the roof of the car. And there it goes. Oh, that's a shame. That mug was a fam favorite.
Don't sweat the small stuff. Just nail the big stuff.
like making sure your kids are buckled correctly in the right seat for their age and size. Learn more at nhtsa.gov/the right seat.
Visit nhtsa.gov/the right seat.
Brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Any Hour Services can make sure your AC keeps you cool this summer. Whether you need a tune-up, repair, or just a second opinion about replacing it, call Any Hour Services or visit anyhourservices.com.
Jeff Kaplan. I'm originally from New Jersey. It's a little different than Utah. Oh, okay. It's a lot different than Utah. You understand what I'm saying here? I first came here on a date. I had an employee who lived in Utah, and I said, that girl, I think I'm going to meet her, and it's tax deductible. I never left. I've never left. I've been here for going on 15 years now, and we've been married for 12. I've been around the block in the radio business. I've worked for a lot of major companies. There are none with the commitment to the community that I found at KSL. There are none with the camaraderie of the staff that I found at KSL. And there are none with the commitment of management and the company to the safety, the health, the welfare of their staff. And I just love this place.
Ride Home with Jeff Kaplan, weekdays 3 to 7 on KSL News Radio.
With the three things you need to know this hour, I'm Dan Bomas. First, where does the chlorine and bromine above the Great Salt Lake come from? Well, U.S. Magnesium says the lake itself could be the source of some of it. Second, there's a lawn grass variety that uses a lot less water than regular turf grass. The company that brought it to Utah says they're already sold out. Third, Walt Nauta, who worked as an aide to former President Trump, was in court in Miami today, pleading not guilty to charges in the classified documents case. Right now, 77 degrees, partly cloudy in Salt Lake City. Back to Dave and Dujanovic on KSL News Radio.
Email from school about the incident today.
Scary.
You know, teachers like me, parents, we don't always know as much as you guys do about what's going on with other kids.
Half the time, it's rumors.
Yeah, but if you're ever concerned about a friend who's having trouble with alcohol, prescription drugs, anything, you need to tell an adult, someone you know and trust. That can be hard, but speaking up about a problem is what helping a friend is all about.
For more information, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
Mom and Dad used to argue about everything, especially about Dad's drinking. My family went from totally crazy to quiet, calm, and even peaceful when Mom started going to Al-Anon family groups. I wanted a better relationship with Dad, so I asked Mom if she would take me to her Al-Anon meetings or to Alateen. I'm sure glad I did. Is someone's drinking troubling you? You might be surprised at what you can learn in an Al-Anon or Alateen family group from people just like you. Call 1-888-4-ALANON or go to alanon.org.
Dave and Dujanovic.
All right, welcome back to Dave and Dujanovic. I am your host filling in this morning, Derek Brown, with my good friend Leah Murray. And we've talked about everything from local, like super local politics right here in Utah. We just spent a while talking about the national issues that are going on, the presidential candidates. And we wanted to spend a moment and talk about what's going on in Israel and the West Bank city of Jenin. Now, we've got a guest who we're hoping can join us, Amos Giora, who is a professor of law at the University of Utah, but he's actually there in Israel right now. And there are a lot of demonstrations. And last we heard he's going to try and call in, but he's right there in the middle of it. And so it sounds, Leah, like he can't really hear anything because there's so much noise where he is at the moment.
Yeah, and I think if it's okay, Derek, why don't we have a conversation about something more close to home, and then if the professor can call in, we'll just stop. Does that make
works.
sense?
Let's do that.
So what I want to talk about, not that I don't want to talk about Israel, but let's talk about that the judge, so let me just ask you a question because you're my lawyer friend. What does it take for a judge to issue a preliminary injunction on a federal holiday like the 4th of July? Because when I saw this decision come down, I went, huh.
Wait, so I'm your lawyer. Let's get this clear. Is there an attorney-client confidentiality going on?
I have not paid you a retainer, so
exactly.
You can spill all the tea.
It may be confidential, but maybe no one's listening.
That's right.
But chances are, a few people are. So for a temporary restraining order, the way those work, and you hear that phrase, TRO, you hear that used a lot in the legal context, the burden is really high.
Okay.
I mean, just to be clear, judges issue orders all the time, but generally they do that after they've gone through a fact-finding process.
Okay.
Right? That's what depositions are. We call it discovery. interrogatories. I mean, basically a judge will go through and get all the evidence, all the information, and then make a decision. A temporary restraining order is where the party goes to the judge and says, look, this is so important that you just don't have time to get all the information. So issue an order, do what we're asking you to do, absent all the information. So the reason I put it that way is that the standard is a lot higher. It's a lot more difficult to get that. But to get that on July 4th of all days, especially when it comes to an issue involving free speech, I think there's a little bit of irony. But at the same time, clearly the judge wanted to make a point because judges don't do this as a matter of course. It is out of the ordinary.
All right, so let's talk about the decision that I'm teasing about, but I hear you. The federal judge that we've been talking about on Tuesday, the 4th of July, restricted Biden administration officials and agencies from communicating with social media companies on content moderation. So basically what happens is this is a lawsuit from Republican attorneys general in Louisiana and Missouri who allege that the Biden's administration efforts to have social media crack down on COVID disinformation basically is what you just said there. It's the First Amendment twice because it's maybe freedom of speech for all the individuals who are saying things in the social media platforms, but it also is maybe freedom of press because the social media platforms so far have been protected by freedom of press, understanding in our country. So what you're saying basically is this judge is saying this is such a problem that we're going to address the sprawling federal censorship enterprise, I love that phrase, from the Republican attorneys general in Louisiana and Missouri, because it's got major First Amendment implications.
Well, and one of the interesting things is that for a company like Meta, which operates Facebook, Facebook has become kind of a de facto public square for a lot of elected officials. And in fact, one of the interesting issues the last couple of years has been the idea that elected officials around the country, you see them when someone will make a comment on their official Facebook page and that's really negative or just hypercritical or just offensive, they'll just remove it because, well, of course, it's their page. But we now have lawsuits basically saying, no, it's the equivalent of a public sphere or a town hall, to which the elected official says, but how can that be the case? This is a private company, and this is my Facebook page. Why can't I moderate the content there when social media companies are moderating their own content? And so we've entered into a whole new world of First Amendment law, and it's a really difficult issue. And frankly, we haven't got to the end of how this shakes out.
Right, and I feel like part of what's overlaid on this is the pandemic, which I feel like is over. Like we all got that message in May, it's done, right? So we maybe shouldn't be talking about it anymore. But a little bit, I feel like there was in the government's interest, maybe, to curb the spread of bad information when you're in a public health crisis. And maybe I can't persuade you of that, Derek, but I kind of feel like maybe it helps for the government to say, like drinking salt water is not going to prevent COVID, right? So if someone were elevating something in social media that you saw other people reading, because we were all nervous, we were all in our homes by ourselves reading social media, that it maybe would make sense for the government at that moment in time. I don't know.
Although what happened is I think there's a balance. On the one hand, I mean, blatant misinformation. But I think the problem is you had a lot of just general information and that got shut down. And not just general information, but legitimate dialogue over things like vaccinations. And in fact, that's one of the reasons that RFK Jr., who is a Democrat candidate, has really made some waves, hasn't he, Leah?
Yeah.
I mean, he's sort of gone against the Democrat grain, so to speak, by saying, look, there's a lot of information that was incorrect about vaccinations, and we should have been able to at least speak about it.
Right.
And so, I mean, the problem is when you have social media companies there's reasons for which they have to moderate content. And there's a lot of law enforcement efforts going on. There's international issues going on with people using these social media platforms to destabilize foreign regimes. And so it makes sense why they do that, but it is a no-win situation because what you choose to moderate is always going to be at the discretion of the person, or the whim maybe of the person who gets to choose whose information gets moderated or not. And it's just, you're always going to offend somebody.
Right. And the thing is, I have these conversations with students all the time. And my answer always has been, and maybe I'll persuade you here, Derek, is I say, it's not on the government to regulate the information because, my goodness, I don't want that happening. And it's not on the private industry really to be doing that because I'm not as any way more trustful of corporations than I am of government. It's on the individual citizen to have enough information and education to be a critical consumer of information, right? So I always put the responsibility right on the shoulders of my students, right? So I'm like, be aware that out in the social media world, people are trying to manipulate you. They will. They're trying to make money off of you. They're going to. You have to be smart enough to, read the information best.
Well, and one of the things that one of my favorite authors is a guy named Arthur Brooks, and he wrote a book called Love Your Enemies, where he talks about that very dynamic. And he starts by saying there was a recent study at the time recent, that said, what percentage of Americans are concerned by the trend that we have where people are becoming increasingly negative, especially on social media. And the result was 95% of Americans said, I'm really concerned with where things are going. And his take on that was not, oh, good, 95% of people are concerned. His take was, wait a minute, who are the other 5%?
That's right.
And the answer is those individuals who have a vested interest
in making bank off of us.
Exactly,
Yes. Yep.
sowing discord and using us.
Yes,
and
no,
so
exactly.
this is an issue that we will see more of through the years, and it hasn't shaken out yet.
And the best person to help us all speak better is
Boyd Matheson.
Who'll be joining us after the break.
KSL FM Midvale, KSL Salt Lake City. Listen on the KSL News Radio app and in your car at 102.7 FM. KSL News Radio, your all-day companion for news.
It's 11 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Dan Bomas. KSL's top story this hour. The Utah Republican Party has sent Celeste Malloy's name to the Lieutenant Governor's office to put her on the ballot to replace Chris Stewart. KSL News Radio's Amy Kobe reports on the other Republican candidates in the race.
2 other Republicans are also likely to qualify for the ballot. 5 p.m. was the deadline for them to submit signatures, so it was down to the wire for Bruce Huff. His campaign told us they submitted to the Lieutenant Governor's office at 1 today, 4 hours before the cutoff. Even though the signatures are in the LG's hands, they still have to be verified. That process was already underway for Becky Edwards, who walked over 7,000 signatures into the office last week.
So if you're keeping track, that would be Edwards, Huff, and Republican convention nominee Celeste Malloy on the primary ballot, as long as enough of those signatures are shown to be valid. Payson City is making it free for people to use its landfill this week. Residents work to clean up from Monday's storms that caused some damage. One person who lives there says the wind took down a 100-year-old tree in the city. The city says you'll need to bring a photo ID with you to the dump just to prove that you're a resident of the city. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. In Newark, New Jersey last night, 2 city firefighters died after they became trapped fighting a fire on board a cargo ship. The ship was carrying 5,000 cars. This is Newark Fire Chief Rufus Jackson.
This is like an ultimate sacrifice of the fire service to lose a brother or a sister of this profession.
The fire aboard the ship has now been brought under control. Your money at this moment, the Dow Jones average sharply down on the day, 413 points right now, and the NASDAQ down 132 points. And coming up, we'll be looking at another possible thunderstorm as we move through the rest of the day. That's next. KSL News Time, 11:02.
Early mornings can be hard enough, just getting yourself going.
We try to make it a little easier with news and weather from comfortable, trusted anchors and reporters.
Join us on Utah's Morning News between 5 and 9
on KSL News Radio.
With the economy the way it is, you're probably staying put. So invest in your home, your number one asset, with beautiful custom replacement windows from Advanced Window Products. They're a local Utah company building beautiful vinyl framed and insulated double pane windows for 37 years right here in Salt Lake City. Advanced Window Products will save you money on your energy bill. Get security features to keep your family safe. And at Advanced Window Products, it's all custom. And the best part? They're local. They build the windows, they install the windows, and they guarantee them for life. so there's no middleman markup. You save on the highest quality windows in Utah. Plus, Rocky Mountain and Dominion offer rebates. For a limited time, they offer 60-month 0% financing, and right now, get $2,000 off 10 windows or more. They're working 8 weeks out, so make the call now. Advanced Window Products, 801-850-9100. That's 801-850-9100, or visit advancedwindowsusa.com.
At Intermountain Primary Children's Hospital, we made a bold promise to build the nation's model health system for children. Join us in realizing our vision for the future of pediatric care. So together, we can expand primary children's impact and ensure every child has access to the right care at the right place at the right time. For a century, Primary Children's has kept the child first and always. Help us continue to do so for the next 100 years. To get involved, visit primarypromise.org.
Hey y'all, my name is Tiara, and a little thing that I love about the Chick-fil-A Spicy Chicken Biscuit is that it has the perfect amount of spice to jumpstart my day. Whoever thought of it, thank you so much.
Hi, my name is Robert, and a little thing I love about Chick-fil-A Spicy Chicken Biscuit is the biscuit. It reminds me of my grandma's homemade biscuit. It's always buttery and savory. Then you add the spices, instant classic.
Order the Spicy Chicken Biscuit on the Chick-fil-A app today. Real Chick-fil-A guests paid for their testimonials.
Mount Star Healthcare's Harriman Emergency Center is now open. Be seen fast at the Harriman ER, located just off Mountain View Corridor and 134th South in Harriman.
Emergency traffic brought to you by Granite Credit Union's High Yield Savings Certificates. Here's Ricky Meese.
We have debris on the road that's backing up traffic because it's spread across 2 right lanes of travel. This is southbound I-15 right around the North Temple area. If you're trying to get to I-80 or 4th South, you're going to have a tight squeeze right now with those 2 right lanes blocked. And we're not expecting this to be cleared up for at least another half an hour. You're going to see big backups going back to about 1700 north in the Salt Lake City area. Again, merge left in order to get around this. Fill up your bucket list in Box Elder County. History, recreation, and wildlife, along with excellent dining and shopping, await you. Find out more at visitboxeldercounty.com. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather, partly cloudy today with a high of 93. We could see pop-up thunderstorms over northeastern Utah during the next 3 days. Temperatures rise toward 100 on Monday and Tuesday. And right now, we're looking at 75 degrees, mostly cloudy skies at KSL News Radio, 102.7 FM, 1160 AM, and KSLNewsRadio.com. Your all-day companion for news.
Dave and Dujanovic have inside sources.
All right, welcome back to Dave and Dujanovic. I am sitting in this morning with my good friend Leah Murray. I'm Derek Brown. And we've talked about everything from local politics
We're having
to
a good time there.
National politics. We really are. I mean, social media, ransomware. I mean, I can't believe the number of topics that we've covered. But we have with us in studio the host of Inside Sources, Boyd Matheson. Boyd, welcome to the show.
Always good to be on.
So tell us a little bit about we were talking in one of the earlier segments about the presidential candidates for the Republican Party. I mean, the Democrats really have the current president and maybe one other person. Republicans at last count had 13 different candidates, and I'm assuming there will be more to come. And we are, 6 weeks away from the first debate?
Yeah.
Right?
It's a never increasing number, and some of them are real head scratchers. And so we always say that trying to understand the behavior of someone running for president is like trying to smell the color 7. So that's the important thing to just get out there. I know Debbie says it about me all the time. Trying to understand Boyd is like trying to smell the color 7. But that's what it is in presidential politics. So you do have some people who have gotten in. Will Hurd got in recently, kind of a head scratcher. It's like, okay, is that a play for a secretary position or a cabinet position or a VP position? So you sort of have those. You also have a lot going on in terms of the Republicans deciding who gets to really be part and be at the big kids table. So that will be a big issue. And to me, it's really interesting just to look at how people launched and what kind of momentum they're building. Because to me, the most important thing right now is not the polling. It's the process. It's what are they doing, boots on the ground? What kind of structures are they getting in those early states of Iowa and New Hampshire and South Carolina and Nevada? And so sometimes the polling can be a little deceiving, but it's always interesting to see what do you lead with? and you had a Governor DeSantis try to do a Twitter thing that, just validates my theory that you're only as good as your tech guy and your Wi-Fi, and they failed at both of those. And so it's interesting to see what they lead with and then where they go from there.
Exactly, and one of the big names is obviously Mike Pence, who was here in Utah, and I was at that event where he spoke. Was it probably a month or so ago?
Yeah.
And then you scored an interview with him right after.
Yeah, we sat down and had a good chat. It was about a week before he actually jumped into the race formally, and it's always interesting. I always ask candidates, what's going to make all of the headache and the heartache and the stress of all of this worth it, even if you run and lose? To me, that's the most important question. I don't care if you're running for dog catcher or president of the United States. I'm going to ask you that question because if a candidate cannot answer that question, you shouldn't vote for him.
I like that. I think we have some sound, maybe an interesting answer on that. So let's play it and then we'll talk about it.
In 1988 and 1990, we ran for Congress and lost. And it was a good thing that we lost. I see some friends nodding. Jay, I see you out there. But we were very arrogant and we were very full of ourselves. We thought Mike and Karen Pence are God's gift to Washington, D.C. And we were humbled.
I just love that.
Isn't that awesome?
You never hear that.
That might be my favorite introduction to a presidential candidate in the history of ever.
I love it because most presidential candidates actually do feel that. Yeah. They just don't admit it.
Yeah.
Right. And so here we have one saying that, right?
And usually you have the spouse get up and it's all the glowing, wonderful, she's perfect, he's awesome. It's kind of this love fest thing. But for Karen Pence to get up there, and she is the first voice. She was the first voice of that campaign saying, look, we thought we were God's gift to the world, and we were wrong, and we got humbled. And so to think about that, as someone running for the highest office in the land, to start with, yeah, there was a point where we thought we were pretty cool and pretty special, and then we learned that service is what this is about. This is about stewardship. This is not about positions and title and people working for you. This is you working for the people. And I just thought that was such a it was so refreshing and it was so authentic.
Yeah,
I thought that was pretty powerful.
And when he was here, he actually Pence spoke about that a little bit, and that was the first time I'd ever heard that story.
Yeah,
and boy, wasn't it. They were in their early 20s or something.
Yeah.
So these are like newlyweds, young kids out to change the world to make a big splash, and then they
got whacked.
They got whacked, exactly.
All right, so talk to me about, so I feel like Mike Pence, former vice president, will be on the debate stage. And the thing I wanted to ask you, Boyd, was tell us who gets to be on that stage. And like, I know there's some, I've been calling them min-quals, right? Like there's some thresholds you got to meet. But one, what do you have to meet? Who you expect will meet? And then why would the GOP choose those min-quals specifically?
Yeah, it's so interesting when you look at those kind of minimum qualifications for people to get on a debate stage. So the Republican Party has said you have to be polling at least 1% in 3 major national polls. So you see a lot of flash polls and things. So it has to be significant in that it has to be over 800 likely Republican primary voters. So it's a pretty specific target.
Yeah.
And so some of these numbers that you see out there may be a little misleading in terms of where people really are. So you have to be over 1% in 3 of those, or there's some combination you could get of Iowa, New Hampshire, and South Carolina. Then you also have to have 40,000 individual donors. Which is an interesting qualification to prove that you have not just big money donors backing you, but you have individuals, and you actually have to have a breakdown of at least 200 in every state.
Oh, interesting.
So you have to spread it out a little bit. It's not just like you can't just have your home state folks all sign up to donate. These don't have to. There's no amount in terms of what the donation needs to be. It could be $3, could be $5, but it at least shows that people are saying, you know what, I'm interested enough in this candidate. That I'm willing to at least put a little money down as a down payment on getting them on a debate stage.
Right, and is there any diversity? How do I ask? So you said there's diversity across the country where the donors have to come from. Is there any diversity in the type? So do they say a certain percentage need to be small donors, or they don't mind? Like you could have 40,000 small donors or 40,000 big donors.
Yeah, no differentiation there.
And that's, I mean, it's interesting because here in Utah we have some similar requirements in terms of the Utah Debate Commission.
Yeah.
But nothing like that. And so you earlier, Boyd, you referred to some of the candidates as head scratchers. I'm assuming these minimum qualifications are meant to weed out The head scratchers.
Yeah, that's right. And I think what they're trying to do is not do what happened in 2016 and 2020 in terms of just having these massive stages or 2 nights and a kids' table and the whole shebang. So it is trying to weed some of those out. So you'll have, I expect, on August 23rd in Milwaukee, that'll be the first Republican debate. And, of course, you'll have former President Trump will be on there. Governor Ron DeSantis will be on that stage. Former Vice President Mike Pence will be on that stage, so that will be an interesting dynamic to have he and the former president on the same stage. Vivek Ramaswamy, I think, will be on that stage, as will Nikki Haley and Tim Scott. I think those are the ones that I'm really confident will
Tell us a
will
little
make it.
bit, or tell our listeners a little bit about Vivek. He's probably a name that is not it's not a household name yet here in the country.
He is he's a tech guy, has made gazillions of dollars in the tech space, and he's come out in a really kind of interesting way in terms of going at things. His biggest battle has not been with any of the other candidates. His biggest battle has actually been with the media and calling the media out for not asking the right questions. He's the one who will always say, why are you asking us about President Trump's indictment? I'm not here to talk about the former president. I'm not even running against the former president. I'm running for this job and for the people of the United States of America. So he's been very outspoken in terms of saying, look, we have to talk differently, and what we get served up or what questions we get asked really matters. And so he kind of put it back on the media to say, you say we always talk about the former president. Well, guess what? We're responding to your questions about the former president. And so that was kind of an interesting little inner battle going on with the media and Vivek Ramaswamy.
Yeah, so Boyd, in just like the last few seconds we have you with us, do you have any predictions? And probably you don't want to do that.
And
but
we're holding you to it, Boyd.
Yeah, no, but I mean, like,
we record everything.
So you don't have to say who you think will win, but do you feel like when we watch that debate, is there some name that you think everyone's going to go, oh, wow?
Yeah, I think there'll be some refreshing moments on the debate stage. I think you'll have the typical battle stuff. Oh, Chris Christie, I did leave off. Chris Christie will make it on the debate stage as well, which will create.
He's there for the fireworks component,
He is there
right?
for the fireworks. And this is one of those. We were talking about this in the newsroom. I'm always fascinated to see what's happening underneath the numbers. And one of those interesting underneath the numbers is with Senator Tim Scott. He is really rising in being people's second choice. So if you were voting for president today, who would be your second choice? And Tim Scott has gone up double digits just in the last 30 days. And so he's very likable, has a compelling story. He's been front and center after the affirmative action ruling from the Supreme Court. He's been attacked by the women of The View and former President Obama.
And held his ground really well on The View.
Yeah, and so he's talking about that upward mobility and opportunity, and obviously his own story. A grandfather that worked in a cotton field to Congress is a pretty amazing thing, and he's really making the case that he's not the exception. That yes, we have problems. He's working on opportunity zones, which are really cool in inner cities. Some criminal justice reform. So he's one I think could be one of those that has a magical moment on a debate stage.
Right.
Nikki Haley's kind of drafting off of that as well. She could have one of those moments. And so, anyway, a long way to go, but those will be some interesting ones to watch.
All right, that's Boyd Matheson, host of Inside Sources. Thank you for your wisdom and insight. I mean, it's going to be fascinating to see what happens. So stay with us. Next, we have Utah's Speaker of the House.
Dave and Dujanovic.
Did you know Utah has just one all-news station in the morning?
It's this one, weekday mornings between 5 and 9.
Start your days with us. We're Tim Hughes and Amanda Dixon.
Your morning companions for news.
July is sure to bring the heat, summer travel, and the drama of a rare Utah special election.
Get out the vote.
Rely on KSL News Radio to keep track of the stories.
KSL News Radio's Lindsay Aerts reports.
While you're keeping track of family. Listen mornings and afternoons to KSL News Radio, your all-summer companion for news.
You heard the call of spring and went to town planting your yard and garden. Everything's in, not too shabby, but you still could use a little help. After all, when you dress things up, it's the little things that zero in on the oohs and ahs, like a nice top dress. No, not the one with those expensive shoes in your closet. Top dress as in compost, bark mulch, and decorative rock for your just about beautiful yard. Oh, and by the way, with 2 to 3 inches of that covering, you help keep the weeds out, save water, and keep the plants cooler. So how do you put those finishing touches together? You call the Dirt Bag. The Dirt Bag makes dressing up your yard so much easier. They'll deliver your bag of bark, mulch, or decorative rock right to your driveway. They'll also deliver loose product in bulk. Or you can pick it up if you like just west of Mountain View Corridor at 6054 West 9790 South in West Jordan. This is one Dirt Bag you'll love. It helps save you money and time. Order your bag now at thedirtbag.com. That's thedirtbag.com.
Don't let severe weather leave you in the dark. Protect your family with a complete whole home generator from the pros at Yes Heating, Air Conditioning, Plumbing, and Electric. Call today and save up to $1,000 when you purchase a new generator from Yes. Don't be left in the dark. Schedule your free power evaluation from the expert technicians at Yes Heating, Air Conditioning, Plumbing, and Electric today. Proudly serving Utah for more than 45 years. Call now or visit theyesmancan.com for details, terms, and conditions.
Do you have an IRA or 401k? It's natural to think of this as being your money, right? But remember, you still have to pay taxes when you withdraw this money in retirement. And you could be paying a lot more in taxes on these accounts than you know. A lot more. Learn the strategies that can help you reduce or eliminate your taxes in retirement. Don't miss a special edition of Retirement Solutions Radio this Saturday afternoon at 3 o'clock, right here on KSL News Radio 1027.
Your home is the place where you know your loved ones are secure. But the things that keep your home protected can't keep pests at bay. That's where RAID comes in. For 60 years, RAID scientists have worked to protect people around the world. With trusted research, ingredients, testing standards, and product efficacy, RAID seeks to create a better future for all, especially the ones you love most. RAID, protection for all.
Military veterans and active duty service members, you could become a certified cyber warrior with just 12 weeks of training at My Computer Career. Cybersecurity specialists are in high demand, and IT pros with these skills often enjoy abundant opportunity and a great lifestyle. Protect our people, liberty, and treasured institutions from cyber threats. GI Bill, SkillBridge, and other VA benefits are available to those who qualify. Learn more at mycomputercareer.edu/CWP. That's mycomputercareer.edu/CWP.
Sometimes I just cannot believe all the storms we've gone through here. I can only hope that we'll be able to leave this house to you one day, baby. You're our legacy.
Planning for these disasters will make sure we're safe, and is the best way to protect that legacy. You know what? We should make an emergency communication plan. That way we're ready this year. At my dorm, we have emergency kits for earthquakes and wildfires, but I'm sure there's something more local I can send you with the link.
Okay.
Smart.
Protect your legacy. Visit ready.gov/plan for the tools and tips you need to start your emergency preparedness plan today. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
With the three things you need to know this hour, I'm Dan Bomas. First, the three Republican candidates in the race for the 2nd Congressional District met their deadlines yesterday at the Lieutenant Governor's office. Second, Payson City, making it easier for residents to clean up after a damaging storm this week. Third, 2 firefighters died when a ship carrying 5,000 cars caught fire on the Newark waterfront. Right now, 75 degrees, partly cloudy in Salt Lake City. And back to Dave and Dujanovic on KSL News Radio.
Dave and Dujanovic.
Except it's Leah Murray and Derek Brown today because Dave and Dujanovic are off. Hopefully living their best lives, doing whatever they do in July. So, Derek, I'm excited about this segment because we have got with us Speaker Wilson from the Utah State Legislature, who is my favorite speaker. Welcome to the show, Speaker Wilson.
It's good to be with both of you. So I don't even know what to do with that. So
I know.
Thank you,
well,
I think
he's a Weber.
grad,
That's
so.
what it's a Wildcat. That's what it is. It's a Wildcat thing.
Because we are
so.
great, Derek Brown. And so Speaker Wilson is great. Thank you for being on the show.
Hey, so one of the things we want to start by talking about is the Great Salt Lake. And the reason this is interesting and the reason I want to bring it up with you is that, I mean, let's be honest, it's sometimes a little more difficult to get Republicans on an issue involving the environment. I mean, just historically, that's the case. And as the Speaker of the House, you exercised what I thought was a phenomenal amount of leadership by basically, and I remember distinctly the moment, you had this hearing where you basically said Republicans, the Great Salt Lake is a huge issue. And it's declining, the declining levels in the lake is not just kind of a nuisance or not just an interesting thing we need to watch. This is a major environmental issue for Utah that we need to tackle now. And if we don't, we're going to pay for it years from now. And I think more than any person in the state of Utah are the one that sort of brought everyone to the table and made this an issue. And so talk to us a little bit about what you've done since then, where things are, and what we can expect from the Great Salt Lake levels kind of moving forward.
You bet. And it's great to be with both of you. And to your very first point, Derek, I think Republicans are very aware of what's happening in the environment. They care deeply about it. But sometimes the paradigm we have around using our natural resources is just different than some other folks. And we get painted into we are painted in a light that I don't think is actually accurate or fair. But with that being said, the Great Salt Lake is of utmost importance to the whole state of Utah, especially northern Utah. It was in a perilously low spot last year, and fortunately, because of the interventions that we've had, and those interventions would not have worked if the citizens of Utah had not been shoulder to shoulder on conserving water. But those interventions, as well as, of course, a tremendous amount of precipitation this year, have got us to a spot where the lake is just 2 feet from its average level over the last 25 years. And so we're not out of the woods yet. I'd love to see the lake 5 or 6 feet higher than it is right now, but we're moving in the right direction. And just 2 other points real quick. We have appropriated close to $1 billion in the last 2 years to water infrastructure, and water conservation. You could go back and probably take the last 30 to 40 years and combine those and maybe find $1 billion. And so we've made tremendous investment. And one of the most important things we've done for the Great Salt Lake is we've actually put someone as the point person there. Just Saturday, a law went into effect creating the Great Salt Lake Commissioner. And Brian Steed is that individual, and he will have responsibility for working with about a dozen state agencies, lawmakers, the federal government, to make sure everyone's singing from the same sheet of music.
So tell us a little bit about Brian's background, because he seems to me like the ideal person, he's worked in academics, he's worked in politics, he's well known kind of all around. And I saw him about a month ago when this had been announced, and I said, Brian, I think you have the most easy job description of all time. That is, fill the lake. Of course, it's the hardest thing to do, but to just define the objective here. But tell us a little bit about him and what tools he has at his disposal to fill the lake.
Yes, so it is exceptionally rare in state government where you have an individual or an organization that actually has a sort of reporting relationship to both the executive branch and the legislative branch. But in fact, Brian will meet on a monthly basis or every 2 months, depending on the time of year we're in, with the governor, the Speaker of the House, and the President of the Senate. There's only one other organization or person in the state that actually does that, and it's the Colorado River Commissioner. And so you can tell how important water is to the dry state of Utah. But Brian's background is perfect. He's worked for the federal government with the BLM, and like you said, he was the director of the Department of Natural Resources here in the state of Utah. And he's really got the perfect resume to go out and create a plan, to monitor, to protect, to fill the Great Salt Lake. And then he also has sweeping authority in the legislation that created this to execute that plan. Over numerous state agencies, he has broad authority. So it's unprecedented in our state's history to have someone in this kind of a role.
Speaker Wilson, I am so impressed, and I'm really hoping that the snowpack makes everything better, and the new commissioner can actually do what Derek seems to have given him an impossible job, which is to fill the lake. I'm wondering if you can pivot with me for just a moment to something locally politically, which is the candidate out of the GOP convention, Celeste Malloy. I follow you on Twitter, so over the weekend or at some point in the last couple of days, I saw a Twitter where you released via tweet you put up the joint statement that the House and Senate put out about the candidacy and the lieutenant governor's obligation to enforce compliance. I'm just kind of wondering if you could talk to us about, do you feel like that's in the rearview mirror? Are there any next steps from the legislature that you're expecting to see?
Yeah, well, Leah, thanks for the question. And this has been an interesting, let's put it that way, situation. And there had just been a lot of questions around exactly what happened, what the timeline was, what's the series of events that occurred, and how did that series of events align with statute. So the purpose of that statement on Monday was to articulate that, to share with everyone everything we knew, including work that our auditors did just to validate the information, and then to share that with folks. So that's what went out on Monday. And we'll let people draw their own conclusions. But at this point, in terms of what happens next, if anyone feels like there needs to be a challenge to Celeste Malloy's candidacy, they're going to probably have to do this. And they'll have to determine whether or not they have a high degree of success and probability in that or not. I do think you will probably see the legislature this next session going back and making one change, which is giving political parties two candidates that will come out of their conventions if they have a special election. One of the areas of contention has been that the state law right now says you can only have one candidate come out of convention. And that's different than normal convention rules when we're just in a regular election cycle.
And I think that probably makes sense. And had that been the case, I think this wouldn't have been the issue it was. And we've gotten word that the party has now submitted Celeste's name as the official candidate, and we'll be having her on the show right after the break. So we've had with us Speaker Brad Wilson. Thank you, Speaker. We appreciate your time being with us on KSL News Radio.
Have a great day.
Thank you. So stay with us. We've got next up Celeste Malloy, who is the official candidate for the Republican Party for the 2nd Congressional District. So stay with us.
It's 11:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Dan Bomas. KSL's top local story this hour. A former Utah State football player could be facing additional jail time for violating a protective order against a woman he was convicted of sexually assaulting. KSL News Radio's Heather Kelly has more.
The Cache Valley Daily reports Devani Stanley admitted to Logan police he called his victim from jail twice, but says it was a mistake. The judge sentenced Stanley to a 1-year sentence in May after he pled guilty to forcible sexual abuse during his freshman year. Violating a protective order is a 3rd-degree felony.
Stanley is due back in court July 19th on the latest criminal charges. Davis School District will be creating 3 new teen centers to help the homeless students in its boundaries. The new centers will be at Bountiful, Syracuse, and Viewmont High Schools. They'll provide teens with everything from laundry machines to adult counselors. The goal is to have a center at every high school in Davis District by 2025, according to the Standard Examiner. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. Meta's rival Twitter app launched overnight. Many insiders calling it the Twitter killer. Here's Washington Post tech columnist Jeffrey Fowler.
It is almost an exact clone of Twitter. There's even a little retweet button with the little circular arrows. The biggest difference is that Elon Musk is not the owner.
And Threads, which is what the rival app is called, can also link to a user's Instagram account. Your money at this moment, the Dow Jones average still down, but not quite as much as it was earlier, down 382 points right now. The NASDAQ is down 141. And our KSL weather, we're getting out from under the clouds here, but it'll warm up. That's next. KSL News Time, 11:32.
What do you need to hear in the morning to feel ready for the day?
Important news that happened overnight, the traffic you'll hit on the roads.
You'll be ready for your day with us.
Join Utah's Morning News, 5 to 9 on KSL News Radio.
Amanda, getting dinner time taken care of any time during the year is tough, but especially in the summer when everybody's schedules are totally blown up and everybody's running in different directions. That is, unless you enlist the help of Beehive Meals.
I've been using Beehive Meals now for months, and I just love it, Tim. I get 10 freezer meals delivered, and I just take one out in the morning, put it in the crock pot, and then it's warm whenever anybody's ready for dinner that night, and they're so nutritious.
It's going to save you time. It's going to save you money. The average cost of a serving is less than $3.50, and obviously your family's going to love all of the great recipes that Beehive Meals offers.
And they have macro-balanced menus, so if you want higher protein and moderate carbs, they have that. They even have gluten-free options.
They do. So you just take this freezer meal, and then you put it in the crock pot, and within hours, your family eats. Whenever they come by, it's going to be warm for them. There's a reason why they're Best of State winners 2 years in a row.
Try Beehive Meals. Go to beehivemeals.com.
Okay, it's hot outside and you need to cool. The new Air Compact appliances are up to 50% off retail. Yeah, life is about to get much cooler. At Warehouse B in Linden or at warehouseb.com, you're about to find out how much cooler. Either a new Air or Frigidaire room-size evaporative cooling fan starting at $49. Yeah, that's cool. Or the new 126-can glass door beverage fridge starting at $149. Even cooler. Or a 48-quart electric camping cooler with dual zone starting at $249. That's seriously cool. With Warehouse B, everything is factory refurbished right here in Utah and comes with a 1-year warranty. Want more savings? Warehouse B is loaded with scratch and dent models that offer the kind of value your family needs today. Visit warehouseb.com and grab a countertop nugget pebble ice maker starting at $199. Shop warehouseb.com or visit their outlet store in Linden off I-15 at exit 273. Warehouse B.
Military veterans and active duty service members, you could become a certified cyber warrior with just 12 weeks of training at My Computer Career. Cybersecurity specialists are in high demand, and IT pros with these skills often enjoy abundant opportunity and a great lifestyle. Protect our people, liberty, and treasured institutions from cyber threats. GI Bill, SkillBridge, and other VA benefits are available to those who qualify. Learn more at mycomputercareer.edu/CWP. That's mycomputercareer.edu/CWP.
The Angie's List you know and trust is now Angie, and we're so much more than just a list. We still connect you with top local pros and show you ratings and reviews, but now we also let you compare upfront prices on hundreds of projects and book a service instantly. We can even handle the rest of your project from start to finish. So remember, Angie's List is now Angie, and we're here to get your job done right. Get started at Angie.com. That's ANGI, or download the app today.
Getting help with plumbing repairs is easier than you think. All you have to do is call Any Hour Services or schedule an appointment at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Granite Credit Union's High Yield Savings Certificates. Here's Ricky Meese.
2 right lanes still blocked with debris on the roadway. This is southbound I-15 near the North Temple area as you're approaching the split to go to 4th South or I-80 out to the airport. Remember, those 2 right lanes are blocked, but the big delays we had are starting to ease. There is a little bit of backup in the area. Also, the stalled vehicle that we had just sticking out in traffic eastbound I-80 a couple of miles after Lambs Canyon has been moved over to the right shoulder. Plan your Bear Lake vacation and check out their fun events happening all summer long. County fairs, Bear Lake Monster Swims, and the Caribbean Cruise Motorcycle Rally. For more information, visit bearlake.org. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather, partly cloudy today with a high of 93, and we could see pop-up thunderstorms over northeastern Utah over the next 3 days. Temperatures rise toward 100 on Monday and Tuesday. 76 degrees, partly cloudy at KSL News Radio, 102.7 FM, 1160 AM, and KSLNewsRadio.com. Your all-day companion for news.
Dave and Dujanovic. Dave and Dujanovic.
All right, welcome back to Dave and Dujanovic. I'm Derek Brown, your host, filling in for either Dave or Debbie, one of the two, and I'm here with Leah Murray, who's filling in for...
I want to be Dave.
Dave, channel your inner Dave. I'll channel my inner Debbie, and we'll have some fun. And we're excited for this next segment. One of the names that you probably hadn't heard of until about 2 weeks ago, and then you've heard just all over the place, is the name Celeste Malloy. She is the one who won the Republican nomination at a convention that the Republicans had, a week ago Saturday or 2 weeks ago Saturday, and ever since then, there's been some controversy, but as of yesterday, it's basically over because the Republican Party submitted an official statement saying she is, in fact, the winner of the convention. And so we're excited to have Celeste Malloy with us on KSL Radio. So, Celeste, welcome.
Thank you.
So, go
Celeste,
ahead,
talk
Leah.
to us about, it's official now. Yesterday, you are officially the GOP convention candidate. To the extent you want to just walk us through the last couple of weeks and how you're feeling.
I'm feeling great. I'm out campaigning. I became officially official yesterday, but I've known since the 24th that I won at convention, and I've been out working. I know, like Derek said, that a lot of people didn't know who I was before convention, and so I'm putting in the work, talking to people, and trying to make sure they know who I am and what I'm about before they go to vote in the primary in September.
So, Celeste, tell us a little bit about that. I mean, one of the things that I heard about you that I find fascinating and that I've never heard before from a statewide elected official or congressional elected official is that you spent 10 years of your life in Beaver, Utah. Is this correct?
This is correct. And I feel like this is the story that people aren't hearing right now and need to hear because I think I have a cool background. I know I am me. So, of course, I think my story is fascinating.
Well, tell us about what were you doing in Beaver? Now, you're from, just so everyone's clear, you're from originally Cedar City, right?
I was born in Cedar City, but I'm actually from a little tiny town in Nevada that no one's ever heard of. That's 20 miles north of another little town no one's ever heard of. And Cedar City was our closest, like that's where we went school shopping and where my mom went to have her babies. And I moved to Cedar City when I was 18 to go to college at SUU. So I did FFA in high school, and I won a scholarship to SUU through a soil judging contest, which is probably another thing you've never heard from an elected official.
Yeah, I just
a lot of first. And now take us to Beaver. I mean, all of us know where Beaver is because everyone in the state at some point in time has stopped there to fill up for gas on your way to St.
Yeah.
George. But you actually, what were you doing in Beaver? And was it 10 years you were living there?
Almost 10 years. So when I graduated from SUU, I graduated with a degree in agriculture. And for the last couple of years of my undergrad, I was working for the USDA, for the Natural Resources Conservation Service as an intern. So I was working with farmers and ranchers, helping them solve resource problems. And when I graduated, they offered me a full-time position in Beaver. So I moved there in 2003 as a 21-year-old straight out of college. And I'm from a little rural town, but your own small town is a little different than moving to a new one. And it was a pretty big adjustment for me, going from having a heavy course load at school and roommates and working to just working and living in a little town.
Celeste, I love what you said earlier, that you feel like the conversation the last week and a half has been about other things and not about who you are. So to the extent you want to talk about it, do you think the last couple of weeks affect your race going forward? Or do I hear you saying, man, I put it in the rearview mirror like the minute the convention ended and I was moving forward. But do you think it has any effect on the primary coming up?
I mean, I don't know that there's any way to know that.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to have a huge effect on it. If nothing else, my name recognition is a lot higher than it would have otherwise been. And people have had a lot of questions, and I think those questions have been answered, and that's a good thing. So I don't know if it was in the rearview mirror completely after convention, but it's in the rearview mirror now. And I'm ready to talk to people about the things that matter in District 2.
Well, and there was a public statement from the Utah Republican Party last night that basically said, for all intents and purposes, we are done. They congratulated you, said a lot of nice things, and talked about your bio, which is where I saw some of the things we've talked about. And, walk us through now, what are we going to see moving forward? Because all the parties now have put forward their candidates. I guess we've got a couple of potential signature gatherers out there, but in terms of actual candidates who will be on the ballot, that we know of, there's 3 from 3 different parties. You're one of them. Walk us through kind of what does your life look like for the next, 2 months? 2 months to 4 months?
I'm still learning what my life looks like for the next 2 months. I'll give you what it looks like to me today. I spend a lot of time on the phone, and I spend a lot of time on the road. This is a big district geographically, and I've said from the get-go that it's really important that whoever represents this district represent the entire district as a whole. We have a population center in the north and a population center in the south and a lot of rural in between. And I'm trying to make sure that I cover all of it. And that's what I want to do as a representative as well. So it's important to start the way you intend to continue, right?
Yeah.
So I spend a lot of time on the road. And even when I'm on the road, I'm usually on the phone, talking to as many people as I can, raising money for a campaign, and meeting with constituents as many minutes of the day as I possibly can.
Celeste, I'm wondering if I can get you to talk about something that's a little near and dear to my heart, is that right now the 3 official candidates for Congressional District 2 for the general election are women. And I wondered if you would just comment on how cool I just think that is. Oh, well, you don't have to comment how cool I think it is, but I think it's really neat, and I'm asking you what
Leah's
you think
now
about it.
commented on how cool it is. Yeah, so, but that is unique. I mean, isn't it, Celeste, to have that kind of a race ahead of us?
Yeah, I think it shows how far we've come. I know a lot of people have been critical that all of our delegation is male, and I think our delegation does a great job. And I haven't really campaigned on I'm a woman, but I am, and I think that means I bring a different perspective than anybody else who's currently serving in our delegation. And I love that it looks like we're going to have a woman in the delegation. I think men can represent women, and clearly I am trying to represent everyone in the district, but I do think I bring a different perspective. And besides my rural background and some of the things I've done, I think being a woman in the delegation will really help round it out. I think everyone complements each other very well. We all have different strengths, and I think my policy strengths and my experience of living my life as a female will both be assets to the state.
Celeste Malloy, candidate for Congressional District 2 special election, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you for inviting me.
So, Derek, coming up after the break, I don't know if you noticed, like it's hot outside. And I feel like it's going to get even hotter, and we're going to talk about heat safety.
Dave and Dujanovic.
Hi, it's Tim Hughes and Amanda Dixon.
Why should you start your day with us?
We have decades of news experience between us.
And we take your trust seriously.
Come here for news tomorrow, 5 to 9.
On KSL.
This is Derek Miller speaking on business. For more than 30 years, the Salt Lake City community has welcomed the downtown farmers market that includes more than 100 farms and ranches from several Utah counties. Carly Gillespie from the Urban Food Connections of Utah is here with more.
32 years ago, Salt Lake's Downtown Alliance started the farmers market at Pioneer Park. It is now a beloved summer tradition every Saturday, 8 a.m. to 2 p.m., June through October. In addition to fruits and vegetables, vendors offer locally made foods and beverages alongside our arts and crafts market. We think of the farmers market as a gathering space for Utah farmers, food entrepreneurs, and consumers, which strengthen our communities. The mission of the market is to support sustainable regional agriculture, to build community gathering places, to increase access to nutritious local foods in urban areas, and to educate the consumer about shopping local. With your support, we're achieving the goals and ensuring that our community always has access to delicious local food. We feature fresh vegetables, honey, local meats, savory salsas and sauces, bountiful baked goods, and delicious dairy products. We believe in knowing where your food comes from and how it is produced, and vet our vendors so that you can trust their products are made and grown in Utah. The Downtown Farmers Market at Pioneer Park is open every Saturday, 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. You can visit slcfarmersmarket.org to learn more.
The Downtown Farmers Market is a vehicle for entrepreneurs and represents the best of Utah. I'm Derek Miller with the Salt Lake Chamber, speaking on business.
This is an important notice to consumers facing $10,000 or more in credit card debt, medical bills, or other unsecured debt. You may not be required to pay it all back because there are special programs that will significantly reduce the amount you owe if you qualify. Accredited Debt Relief has helped qualify consumers with over $1 billion in debt. This is not bankruptcy or a debt consolidation loan. For this free information, call 800-786-3400. That's 800-786-3400.
At Your Service Pros Heating and Air recently received the following review on Yelp. I'm so glad I got a second opinion from At Your Service Pros. They identified the same items of work to be done, but gave me a much more realistic quote. I'll definitely use them again. Thanks, Seth. We're glad we were able to do the repairs for less than half of what the other company quoted him. There's a reason we're one of the highest rated companies on both Google and Yelp. If you want a free second opinion on your HVAC repairs, give us a call at 801-YOUR-PRO. That's 801-YOUR-PRO.
Are you or someone you take care of as their caregiver living with Alzheimer's disease? This study just might be for you. Consider participating in a Therapist clinical trial exploring a novel repair and regenerative approach to Alzheimer's disease. Pantheon Clinical Research in Salt Lake City is looking for people with mild to moderate dementia, 55 to 85 years old. A consistent caregiver or support person is necessary for the conduct of this study. This study is a late-stage clinical study of an investigational drug for the treatment of mild to moderate Alzheimer's disease. Pantheon Clinical Research has over 30 years' experience with clinical trials. They conduct their business with professionalism, efficiency, and integrity. Contact Pantheon Clinical Research in Salt Lake City today. Again, call Pantheon Clinical Research today at 385-281-0550. That's 385-281-0550. Or go to pantheonclinical.com. That's pantheonclinical.com.
At KSL News Radio, we have a 30-year legacy of honoring Utah teachers, but we can't do it without your help. Please tell us about an important teacher in your life on the KSL Teacher Tribute Wall, presented by Cypress Credit Union. Each month, one lucky teacher wins a $500 gift card from Cypress Credit Union, a $250 gift card to Harmon's, plus season tickets to Hale Center Theater. Say thanks to your teacher today at kslnewsradio.com/teacher from Cypress Credit Union and KSL News Radio.
Tim and Amanda.
In 20 minutes of listening to Utah's Morning News, you'll hear every breaking story that's happening.
To travel to work, you're going to find out how much time it's going to take you to get there.
You'll hear stories that help you address the problems, not just what the problems are.
Wake up with Utah's Morning News with Tim and Amanda, 5 to 9 on KSL News Radio.
With the three things you need to know this hour, I'm Dan Bomas. First, a former Utah State football player could be facing additional jail time for violating a protective order. Second, the Davis School District has money to open new teen centers now at 3 more high schools. The teen centers serve students experiencing homelessness. Third, Facebook's parent company has launched its rival app to Twitter. Threads, as it's called, also allows users to link to their Instagram accounts. Right now, 76 degrees, mostly cloudy in Salt Lake City. And back to Dave and Dujanovic on KSL News Radio.
Be ready, Utah. Special coverage with Dave and Dujanovic.
Except that it's Leah and Derek, because Dave and Dujanovic are out, I think, in the heat.
In the heat, the heat of the day, the heat of the time of year right now.
That's right. I love, like, that one song says, right? The heat is on. It's been a minute since I've heard that song on the radio, but maybe we should all play it. Because coming this week, Derek, we're going to get to the triple digits.
For a couple of days, actually.
Yeah.
So this is our first time. And we're glad that it's coming now and not, say, 2 months ago when we had a major snowpack. And so I think that's one of the reasons that we did so well in terms of flooding is that we, if early May we had hit triple digits for a couple of days, we would have had real problems. But I think we were fortunate as a state to not have that happen.
Yeah, and here's the thing. So I'm someone from the East Coast. I mean, it's been 21 years, and soon I'm going to reach the tipping point where I'm more
No, you'll always be an East Coast girl.
Okay.
Let's be honest.
And where it's cloudy all the time, right? So to a certain extent, it would get hot and it would get humid and that would be gross, but you didn't really have to, like, worry about things. What I learned here when I moved here 21 years ago was, like, actually the heat requires some behavior. Does that make sense? So to a certain extent, when we're seeing triple digits, there are things that people need to do. There are measures you need to take. And to help us figure out what we're talking about, we've got Wade Matthews from Be Ready Utah to help us all live our best selves this summer. Wade, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
All right, so tell me, how long should we be outside in the heat each day? And so I guess for some people, it's like I run from my house to my car, air conditioning to air conditioning, right? But maybe other people are actually working outside. Like, what is a good number to be outside? Or you're at the pool, like how long should you be doing that? Or, what is kind of on average, how long should we be exposing ourselves to the heat each day?
Yeah, and that's relative to, what you're trying to accomplish outdoors, actually. So like you mentioned, some people are going to be working out all day. Some people are just going to be recreating and maybe out for an hour or 2 or 3, maybe a hike in the mountains or something like that. So it's all relative. But I think what's important is paying attention to what your conditions are at that moment, what your body is doing at that moment, maybe more importantly, to judge how long you should be out there based on those signs and symptoms that you might be seeing while recreating or working outdoors.
So if I'm working I like how you just said that, we should be watching for signs. If I'm working outside, what signs are like, okay, Leah, hydrate, and what signs are, oh no, we've got a problem?
Yeah, from worst to best, basically, heat stroke is really health threatening. It can be deadly. You're looking for high body temperatures, red, hot, dry skin, rapid, strong pulse, dizzy, confused, even unconscious. If you get to that point, hopefully someone else is with you and aware. But you're not sweating with a heat stroke. But before that, with heat exhaustion, you would be sweating heavily, which is not as like I say, not as dangerous as heat stroke. But heat exhaustion, heavy sweating, pale, tired, weak, thirsty, possibly fainting, and nausea, vomiting, and a fast pulse. And before that, heat cramps. So these are, like I say, worst to best. Heat cramps would be muscle pains or spasms in your stomach, arms, or legs. And if you're experiencing any of those types of symptoms, get indoors. Drink lots of water. Hydrate with just cold water or sports drinks. And if you're getting to that heat stroke stage, you need to seek medical help. Call 911.
So one of the problems I think we have here in Utah is that we've got 4 distinct seasons. Right, Leah? We've got 4 seasons in a way that we may not be totally ready when the summer comes.
Yeah.
I mean, it may catch us off guard. I just returned. I was in Dubai for a couple of days, and there it was about 105 degrees outside, felt like 115, but everyone is they're ready for it. And funny enough, I was actually at a mall where they have an indoor ski resort. So, they're all ready. So when you go outside, it's not like people are getting heat stroke because that's just a way of life. But here in Utah, that isn't, we aren't thinking about that. It sort of catches us off guard and kind of, wait, isn't that the problem we have is that it sort of catches us off guard?
Yeah, exactly. So to be prepared before going out in the heat, know what the conditions are, expect, when are we going to reach those triple digit temperatures? What are you going to be out in the sun? Are you going to have some shade or shelter areas? So you have to be prepared with that type of knowledge before you even go out. And then secondly, you mentioned in the Middle East, they're really good at doing this next preparedness step, dress in loose, lightweight, light-colored clothing. That's what they do really well in the Middle East. So that's how they kind of survive that heat better. So we would do better if we dressed in loose, lightweight, light-colored clothing. Wear a brimmed hat. Keep that sun off your face. Sunscreen, of course, to keep from getting sunburned. Limit strenuous, and I think they do this very well in the Middle East as well, as you mentioned that. Limit strenuous activity during midday hours. The hottest part of the day is the time to shade up, find shelter, and just be drinking a lot.
Right, just right where I want to pause you right there, Wade, in that, because I think I've been reading stories as the heat gets going. People are on hikes, right? I think there was someone who died in the Grand Canyon as a result of how hot it was. So you just said, but we live here and it's beautiful and we all want to hike all the time and it's summer and so you can finally get out and get some hiking. So what I hear you saying is not in the middle of the day. So if I were planning, like a peak hike, like I'm going to head up to Ben Lomond Peak, I'm leaving, what do you think, like 5 in the morning, 6 in the morning? Because I want to be out of the sun by like noon?
Yes, exactly. Those are typically undertaken earlier in the day, and then you're shading up in the midday if it's an all-day kind of a hike, and then you continue on in the later afternoon and evening when it's still cooler. But, again, you just got to – and at those points, drinking lots of liquids, staying hydrated, taking frequent breaks in those types of activities as well will help you stay cooler.
And ironically, drinking liquid, even if you're in a pool, because some of the problems I've seen with kids in the past is they'll spend several hours in the heat of the day in a pool and still get dehydrated because they're not drinking water.
Yeah, exactly. And that's our body needs water. We can only go 3 or 4 hours without liquids. There's the 3 to 4 rules, like 3 to 4 minutes without air, etc. But 3 to 4 hours without liquids, 3 to 4 days without food. So, I'm sorry, 3 to 4 days without water. But you don't want to wait that long before drinking water. It's 3 to 4 weeks without food. But anyway, make sure you're hydrating a lot. And one other thing we want to mention, too, is whether you're recreating or just shopping, people always have a tendency of leaving children and pets in the cars for just a few minutes when they're running into the store. Never leave children or pets unattended in vehicles, even for just a few minutes in the heat.
Great. So we have Wade Matthews with Be Ready Utah. And Wade, give us a quick sort of 30-second review of what is it that Be Ready Utah does? What is the, you're with Division of Emergency Management. Give us a sense of what is it that the point of the organization and your goals.
Yeah, sure. As you said, I'm from the Utah Division of Emergency Management, and Be Ready Utah is our outreach program. It's one and the same. People kind of separate the two, but Be Ready Utah is the outreach program of the Division of Emergency Management. And with that program, we aim to educate people about all things preparedness. We consider ourselves, all hazard emergency management, whether natural, man-made, technological, teaching people how to be prepared because we want people to be survivors, knowing the protective actions to take, whether it be for an earthquake, a tornado, an active threat, having emergency supplies and a family disaster plan in place. Those are key things that we try to teach people through our outreach efforts via beready.utah.gov. We go around and do emergency preparedness presentations through our social media accounts. And we've been going on, I think we're on our 15th year of Be Ready Utah, which was created by then Lieutenant Governor Gary Herbert back in 2006. So do the math there, see where we're at. But that's what Be Ready Utah is.
All right, Wade Matthews with Be Ready Utah. I love this. I'm going to go on there and see, how can I walk my dog, right? When the heat comes up. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Yes, thank you.
Derek, it has been lovely and a pleasure to spend the morning with you.
This has been a lot of fun. We've talked about everything from drinking water to ransomware to talking with congressional candidates. It's been quite a morning.
It has been a ride. Listeners, thank you so much for joining